Yes.
The Leaf Spring Army sends its regards.
Hello, everyone. I am the Enforcer, and I'm accompanied by Enforcer Matt.
And good evening, folks. It's Enforcer Matt, and welcome back to day 1248 of the War News stream. And today we have very big news. Thailand has declared martial law as the war is escalating dramatically. Also, Russian companies are collapsing under economic strain, and Israel is defending against a brand new Houthi attack. And we have news from every region tonight, and it's good to see you all once again.
And of course, we're going to be covering the past 24 hours of news from around the world, as we've been able to hear overnight that the border war between Thailand and Cambodia has now been declared by the Thai Prime Minister a total war, as a battle plan made years ago by the Thai government for the implementation of a total war against the state of Cambodia, or the Kingdom of Cambodia, has been put into place today. And we've also been able to hear of major battles and fights that have been occurring along the entirety of the border from Ubon Ratchathani all the way down to the area of Trat, to the very southern region of the northeasterly part of Thailand. We have also been able to hear of significant offensives being conducted by the Royal Cambodian Army as they've attempted to cross the border in multiple places, but appear to have been turned back by Thai army forces. We have also been able to hear, in the meantime, that Thai forces throughout the rest of the country are mobilizing rapidly and moving quickly into the region of northeastern Thailand, near to the border of Cambodia. We have also been able to get significant news from the Thai government that it does appear that at this moment they are claiming that 100 Cambodian service members have already been killed in the opening of the fighting within the past 48 hours, while at the same time, the Thai government has also publicly stated that they are using cluster munitions within jungle areas to be able to try and combat the Royal Cambodian Army forces wherever they are attempting a breakthrough across the border. Meanwhile, we have been able to hear that the USS Nimitz carrier strike group has also arrived inside of Thailand today, apparently a diplomatic show of force in support of the Kingdom of Thailand again in their conflict against the Kingdom of Cambodia. We have also been able to hear other major developments inside of the Kerch Strait, as hours ago we were able to hear that the Ukrainians, through a mixture of drone and missile forces, conducted another attack on the Kerch Bridge. We do not have a lot of information, rather than the fact that the Ukrainians did confirm they had waged an attack against the bridge, to be able to confirm any damage, at least at the moment. Damage reports may be coming in a little bit late, possibly by tomorrow, so while we can confirm that an attack did happen, we are not able to confirm whether the attack completely failed or if it was successful and was able to hit the bridge and cause further significant damage. Ukrainian deep strikes have also affected the areas of Stavropol as well, as we've also been hearing that the Russian economy has been going into an absolutely abysmal downturn, as we've also been able to hear that the major manufacturer or truck manufacturer KAMAZ has had to cut down its manufacturing abilities due to a slash in the Russian truck market of 60% since the beginning of this year. In other major news, we've also been able to hear that the Russian Federation is now officially decommissioning and scrapping the Admiral Kuznetsov, as a Russian official came out today and stated that the vessel is too old and too derelict to even be subject to further repair and will most likely be left abandoned in Murmansk until it can be towed to a shipbreakers to be able to be broken up by the blowtorch. We've also been able to hear that the Russian Naval Day in St. Petersburg has been canceled, which is usually a fairly significant event to show off the pride of the Russian northern fleets as well as the Baltic fleets due to supposed security concerns. We've also been able to hear that the Ukrainian armed forces have held their lines heavily today, and while Russian Federation forces were able to enter the outskirts of Bekrovsk for the first time, these forces were quickly dealt with and destroyed outright. Meanwhile, inside of the Middle East, we have been able to hear that the mini Houthis did fire more ballistic missiles at the state of Israel overnight, while at the same time, in southern Syria, we have been able to confirm that the Syrian interim government forces that were supposedly sent into the Suwayda government to be able to, and I quote, keep the peace, have now started to go off their way to attack the Druze citizens living inside of Suwayda, firing mortars into the city wildly in the hope of killing civilians or armed combatants of the Druze forces alike. We've also been able to hear that the Israelis are now claiming that the Islamic Republic of Iran is not just developing a nuclear weapon, they are now developing a fusion bomb. But we will be getting into all of that major news throughout the course of the night, and a lot of other additional news as well, as today has been a wildly busy news day. Probably one of the busiest news days that we've seen in a bit of a minute. Each day is getting crazier and crazier. That's pretty much a guaranteed certainty these days. But of course, we want to make sure to get y'all into all of the depth and detail that we have available, at least at this moment. And moving us on down into Southeast Asia, we can say that at this point, the border war between Thailand and Cambodia has now turned into a full-blown total war by announcement of the Kingdom of Thailand. We have been able to hear today that earlier the Thai government did activate a specific war plan called the Chakrabungse Bhuvanath Plan, which acts as a blueprint for the deployment of air, naval, and ground forces, as well as a structured plan for intelligence gathering, operational readiness, and a response mechanism that prioritizes safety in the event of a full-scale war with Cambodia. The implementation of this battle plan today is showing that not only has it entered a full-scale war, but they are mobilizing quite literally every part of the available armed forces in Thailand to become part of this conflict, and pretty much every civil institution as well. Meaning that at this point, it is now a full-scale total war that is being waged between the Kingdom of Thailand and the Kingdom of Cambodia. Further confirmation came later in the day that there are full-scale preparations for a total war in between Thailand and Cambodia, as we have heard once again that they did activate the three-phase strategy to be ready for a full-scale war with Cambodia amidst the major border war that is happening at this moment right now. Since those statements came out far earlier in the day, we have been able to confirm that a huge swath of battlefields have now started to form along the entirety of the Cambodian-Thailand border, all the way from the small province of Trat in the very southerly part of the northeastern region of Thailand and all the way to Ubon Ratchathani. We have been able to confirm that there has been some sort of armed action or artillery fire within every single area except for the Sakau area. We have not been able to see any confirmed fighting or action within that area, at least at the moment, but every other part of the border is currently embroiled in heavy firefights, and not only that, heavy artillery battles which are being waged by the Thai and the Cambodians at the exact same time. The Thai government did put out a couple of important statements leading us into the battlefields that were a little bit important to note today. We were able to note that the Thai government made it incredibly clear that they are using cluster munitions solely for military targets, stressing no long-term impact on civilians, and also stating that Thailand is not a signatory to the CCM, which largely limits the use of cluster munitions by its signatory members in the event of a major conflict. We have also been able to hear that the Thai government has claimed that they have already been able to kill at least 100 100 Cambodian service members so far, although there has been no true verification to this claim, at least at the moment. This is the first casualty report, however, that we've been able to get that's been claimed by either side, and considering that it's about 100 service members within the first 24 hours, the number is somewhat believable. It's not absolutely outrageous, like, for example, thousands. It is only 100, so it does appear that at least for the moment, we can verify that that number seems to be at least plausible at a minimum, or probably something to go off of at best. We have also been able to hear that in the meantime, the Thai government has also been trying to mitigate the amount of civil unrest that would be afflicting Cambodians living inside of Thailand, as we were able to hear that the Central Investigation Bureau has issued a stern warning to the Thai public that anyone who attacks a Cambodian living in Thailand will face legal action and prosecution at the hands of the government for acts of violence or outbursts against Cambodian communities living inside of Thailand. At the exact same time, however, mobilizations have been conducted throughout the entirety of the country. We have been able to see a significant amount of mechanized and motorized units making their way towards the areas of the fighting. As we can see here, the Thai army blocking off a road so that way their APCs can start to hit the highway and rapidly move towards the active front lines at the border.
Also, what is that? Is that like an American Humvee ripoff or something sitting right there in the middle of the road? What is that?
I don't know what that is. I honestly think it might be I think it's a Type 93 Jeep. Let's see, a Type 93 a Humvee. Let me see if that'll get it for us. Well, actually, this is an air a surface to air system, but I think it's the Japanese version of a Humvee. Let me see here. Let's see, what is it based off of? Because military okay. I think it is this.
Aha, yeah, it's like a rip-off version of a Humvee. That's kind of weird. It looks almost similar, identical almost.
It looks very similar, amazingly similar. Uncannily similar, honestly, but we can see the column of armored personnel carriers making their way down the highway. And I'd also like to note for all of y'all, because some of y'all may have a question on this in a minute, why in the world are there no videos of Cambodian mechanized troop movements over the course of the day, at least in our news coverage? That's because, from what we understand, Cambodia has no mechanized infantry units. They only have motorized infantry units, so they don't have any armored personnel carriers in any large number present in the Royal Cambodian Army. So that's why we do not have any video or picture evidence over the course of the day or any of the prior or future days of any sort of significant armored personnel carrier movements or mechanized movements inside of Cambodia. It's because they just don't have any. We also were able to confirm that the Thai Air Force was mobilizing rapidly to get to the combat zone, as we were able to confirm that one of their air wings made up of JS-39 Gripens, of course purchased from the Swedish Saab company, were also taking off from their air bases within southern Thailand to fly around Cambodia and into the northeastern region to be stationed at an airbase that'll be far closer to the action in the current fighting than they're at the moment right now.
Those are some cool looking fighter jets. I love those right there. Very good design.
Yeah, the Gripens are really cool.
It's hard to believe that Thailand has those, honestly. Like, I'm not trying to diss on Thailand, but that's a rather fine jet for a country of Thailand's size to have.
You know what's actually interesting about these? These look far more advanced than an F-16, but they're actually a lot cheaper than an F-16, and also a lot cheaper to maintain and keep running. So, interesting enough, if you were to expect any aircraft to be in the Thai Air Force, it'd probably be this one more than any other. Like, it's actually more expensive and laborious for them to have the F-16s than it is for them to have these, which is a little bit wild to think about.
Yeah, it is weird.
But that's the end of that clip, still confirming that the Thai Air Force is already publicly moving its air assets into the northeastern region. Meanwhile, moving us closer into the actual front line themselves, the fighting has been, to say the least, incredibly incredibly dense today over most of the front lines. We have been able to confirm that pretty much every single region, from Ubon Ratchathani to Sisaket to Syrian, as well as Trot, have been involved in some sort of heavy fighting over the course of the day, and moving us on from the most recent offensives that have been conducted on into the actions and battles of the day earlier. We are going to be starting off in the most southerly area of the front, and then moving our way over to Ubon Ratchathani, which is directly along the border with Laos. We were able to hear in Trot just about 30 minutes before the stream started that the Cambodian army had launched a new offensive into the Trot province, which hadn't seen any border clashes so far, which is confirming that there right now is an attempted armed incursion by the Royal Cambodian Army into the area of Trot as they are attempting to advance most likely towards the shoreline itself and to cut off any Thai security forces or Royal Thai Army forces that are found within the southern area of this province. We're not exactly sure how the fighting is going in this area. The announcement was made that Cambodian offensives were being conducted into this area, but so far we have not been able to get any up-to-date information about if that Cambodian attack was successful in breaching the border or if the Royal Thai forces have counterattacked and have started to push the Cambodians back, and not only that, into Cambodia itself. We have not been able to confirm that at the moment, but we can confirm that the Trot region is now involved in heavy fighting as Cambodian forces are actually going on the offensive in this area where there has been no fighting so far. And I like to make that quite clear for some people who may be wondering who is the aggressor party in this situation. From what we understand, the first action that led to the 7-11 war was the planting of a landmine by Cambodian forces onto a Thai patrol path on the Thai side of the border, meaning that Cambodia violated the sovereignty of Thailand, which was really the beginning of the conflict. Not long after that, small skirmishes would begin along the border, and the Cambodians would fire MLRS barrages into the border regions inside of Thailand. And the first target that they hit was a 7-11, resulting in the death of 2 civilians and 2 being wounded from that 7-11 itself, which is the reason why here on this channel we're calling it the 7-11 war, because that really seems to be the point of no return, at least as far as the escalations were going, was the death of those 2 civilians at the 7-11. Beyond that, we were able to hear just minutes after that the Cambodians also attacked and shelled a hospital, the Phantom Dong Rock Hospital inside the Syrian region of Thailand, which appears to have also been another point of no return as far as the Thai government was concerned. So with that in mind, it does appear that at the moment, the 7-11 war is largely an act of aggression, if by any party, by the Cambodians against the Thai, which is a little bit wild to think, because if you look at the Cambodians on any metric, economically, militarily, or any other, they have no chance in hell of actually trying to win this conflict. Yet, nevertheless, we are able to confirm that if any offenses are being conducted anywhere, or any aggressive action is being taken first by either party, 9 times out of 10, it's been the Cambodians and not the Kingdom of Thailand. But moving on from that and further up the border and into the area of Buri Ram, which we've been able to hear of some limited action happening in today, we were able to confirm that Cambodian MLRS forces, or rocket artillery, has been conducting significant barrages across the border today. And one thing that's also been noted quite heavily by the international community is the fact that Cambodian rocket artillery and artillery forces in general seem to be staging their rocket fire from within populated civilian areas, such as the epicenters of villages or major thoroughfares, almost in an attempt to lead to counter battery, resulting in inevitable civilian casualties and losses if the Thai were to return fire. This MLRS was in an unknown area inside of Cambodia, but as the video will show you all, there are actually children and civilians standing very close nearby, because this grad actually set up within the middle of a populated village to conduct its fire operation against the Royal Thai Army across the border. But that was the end of that clip, but still a very interesting sort of a sight to see, noting, of course, importantly, that the Cambodians are conducting no evacuations of their civilians from the active border conflict, and not only that, it seems as though they may be possibly trying to use their civilians as human shields with their artillery fire originating from heavily populated village and city areas. Meanwhile, we also were able to hear that the M101 artillery batteries of the Royal Thai Army were also returning fire over the course of the day within a similar area. We do understand that Thai Army forces have not attacked or killed any Cambodian civilians, at least according to public statements or accounts that we've been able to gather throughout the day, as it does appear that Thai forces are far more disciplined in their fire and appear to be attacking Cambodian army positions along the DMZ or Cambodian bases further back behind the DMZ, about 12 miles away from the border. Nevertheless, here is the video of these older M101s, and I actually want to show you this to y'all, because these are quite old. These actually are used by the Ukrainians as well, but the M101 howitzer is something that has been out of U.S. service for a bit. These were first introduced into the Army in 1941 at the outbreak of the Second World War, and it appears that the Royal Thai Army actually has several M101 artillery batteries that are still in service in their armed forces. Nevertheless, these still have a somewhat significant range, and their high explosive shells are still damaging if they're able to land direct hits. But here's the clip. We can see them loading the M101. And we can actually see here, this is a full-scale battery of possibly 4 to 3 guns. One other thing that's also interesting is that they're transporting these M101s with M35 transport trucks, which is showing that this is a fairly antiquated artillery unit, at least in its actual technology or capabilities, but it does still appear that the Royal Thai Army is perfectly fine with pressing them into frontline artillery service, at least at the moment.
It really is quite wild. It's like the Thai military. It's like they're a mix of like modern stuff. They have modern jets and modern equipment, but they also have like really old equipment too. Like they might have gone to like a U.S. government auction and bought some old trucks or something at some point. Is this a Unimog?
Yeah, I was about to say, that is a Unimog right there.
It is a Unimog. It's multiple different Unimogs. That's pretty cool, actually. They got some German equipment as well.
This whole unit is quite literally the U.S. Army in the Cold War, or really NATO in the 50s and 60s. This is pretty much the whole artillery unit, in at least in its material equipment. Pretty interesting and unique. You don't really see this a lot, but also I've got to say that while this unit is antiquated by Western standards, practically to every degree, compared to the Cambodians, this is actually on par, if not still slightly superior to Cambodian army abilities in the artillery. So with that, we are going to be moving on from that clip and further down the line to where we also were able to see more artillery barrages being launched by the Cambodians, as we were able to hear not long before the stream started that another volley was fired near to the Syrian border region by a Cambodian rocket artillery unit. Outside of that, we also were able to confirm that the Cambodians are still randomly shelling populated areas where there appears to be a high amount of civilian traffic by Thai citizens, which we were able to see in this clip right here. Luckily, we were able to confirm in the process of this clip no one was injured or killed, but it is also a little bit harrowing to know that civilians were actually driving down the road while the barrage was happening, but it's also humorous because one guy just could not be bothered. So here's the clip. And we hear the barrage coming in. You can actually see the impacts over there on the top right of the screen, the smoke rising from some of the first MLRS hits. You see the dogs looking at it. And now you can see down there, I want to make this clear, that there are rocket impacts on every side of this road. There are rocket impacts to the left and right of the road, making it incredibly clear that the Cambodians targeted the road itself with an MLRS barrage. And out of this whole thing, there's just a guy on a moped literally riding through the barrage, the whole thing. And he's not even panicked. If you'll watch here, he's not panicked at all. He took a minute to gather his breath and then just keep going. So he pulls over for a minute, looks around, appears to light a cigarette, actually.
Gotta take a cigarette break.
He almost got smoked, so he took a smoke break to honor the occasion.
Honestly, that's not a great idea. It's like they're targeting that spot, and he was traveling, then he stopped to see if he was going to possibly get hit again. It's kind of a little bit wild.
Well, the way he's thinking it, lightning doesn't strike twice in the same place. But he starts up the moped again, and away he goes. probably one of the more wild things that we saw so far from the Thai side is this stone-cold moped driver who could not be bothered at all by the fact he almost got killed in MLRS barrage. So I got to give it to the guy. The guy has got absolute nerves of steel, or he's in shock, one or the other. I saw someone say bro was in shock. Maybe, but considering the way he just casually pulled up, lit a cigarette, kind of looked around and gathered his surroundings, he doesn't really seem to be in shock. It actually seems he's well aware of the situation, and he's just taking it all in and then got on his way. So credit to the guy. I don't think I would have ever been that calm or collected being under a literal MLRS barrage while driving on my way to work or back from work. But moving on from that and out of that clip, we were able to confirm that while this stone-cold moped driver was going about his day, which appears to be the whole reason the Cambodians are scared of the Thai, is because of this moped driver. I've actually heard that there's a new internet ad going around in Thailand. They say, Cambodians fear him. Learn how this moped driver scared the entire Cambodian army with one simple trick. But moving on from that and into the Sisaket region, where we were able to see the heaviest fighting today, we were able to see Royal Thai forces opening fire on the Cambodian armed forces, not only with the artillery, but also in small arms fire as well, as fire was being exchanged directly from the Thai and Cambodian trenches towards the other, which we can see in this clip right here. We can see the soldier pulling out a grenade launcher. It appears he may have fired the grenade. We didn't really hear it. We see the grenade launcher is reloaded. It is an incredibly heavy firefight going on at the moment. And we see him firing it again. Meanwhile, we also were able to see what it was looking like quite literally on the other side of the border in the Cambodian army. This is the Cambodian army.
Oh man, they're just out here just going at it. Look at them.
Yeah, I think, folks, the difference in quality of the armed forces is starting to become a little bit clear when you take the last clip, which is from the Thai side of the border, and this clip, which is from the Cambodian side. So I think you can kind of start to tell, just in the quality of the armies alone, who's probably going to be coming out on top.
Is that a damn Tommy gun?
No, that is actually an RPK. Let me go get it here. An RPK with a drum mag. So let me see. Let's see here. Actually, let me see if I can find a good example of that specific one. So let me see. RPK with the drum mag.
He's gangster for the drum mag, though. That's just straight gangster. He may not have a shirt on, but he's going gangster.
This is the firearm that he's actually using right there. It's an RPK with a 75-round drum mag. Not the most effective, actually. The drum mag is prone to jamming and feed failures a good bit. But getting back to the clip, we see that it actually did jam. And it jammed again. It jammed again. It jammed again. Actually, folks, I didn't get time to watch the full clip earlier. I only got to watch, like, the first 7 seconds. And I just brought up the feed issue that comes with that large drum mag. And believe it or not, it's actually being shown quite literally in the film why you never use drum mags. Because drum mags are prone to a great deal of failures. And that's why usually you would see in the modern day that a light machine gun usually is belt-fed. Or, if you're using some sort of a standard service rifle, it is usually fed by a stick magazine, because those are prone to a lot less failures due to the simplicity of the ammunition feeding system. Also, this guy appears to just be lounging around on top of the sandbags, just watching this guy lay down machine gun fire while they are under fire, both shirtless and also not in uniform.
The advantage of being a supervisor, laid back in the Gucci flip-flops, just sort of screaming at the guy. And then you got this guy over here that doesn't even have a working rifle, like obviously it's having tons of feeding issues. Honestly, this seems pretty ragtag right here. Like, they don't really have their stuff together, I don't think.
I don't think so. I think this isn't going to turn out well for him. We already knew that, but this certainly is going to be turning out well for him. But you see that he's still trying to fix the jam or the feeding issue.
We know how difficult that is, Enforcer. We literally had that exact problem at the range in real life with a drum mag like that, like fighting with it.
Yeah, this is going to be easier though because this is an RPK, not a Tommy gun, but still. This is not the kind of failures that you want to have in combat, is a feeding failure because a drum mag is just too difficult to work with. It's a literal miracle if a drum mag ever works properly. And I know that some people out there are going to say, no, it's not, because my Gucci drum mag actually does work. But whenever you're standard issued anything in a military, especially an old crappy Narenko or a Soviet 75-round drum mag, I can promise you that it's not going to work effectively. It's an absolute failure. Quality control was not there. So you see this guy might have finally fixed the feed issue. He finally did. And he immediately started shooting into the sky. There's another feed issue. And another one.
Bro, give it up already. Oh, this guy's not even hitting anybody.
I don't even think he really knows how to aim. I'm gonna be honest with y'all. I know who my money's on in this war, and it's on the Thailanders, because I don't think the Cambodians are gonna have this for much longer. We also got to see, speaking of which, the Thai also continuing to fire onto the Cambodian forces. So once again, show y'all a little bit of a difference. This is actually one of the more modern truck-based self-propelled guns, or what we would call something similar or akin to the Bodana or the Caesar inside of Ukraine. This is the Thai version of that artillery system, and we can also see that operating in adjacent fire support missions to the Thai infantry, which are engaging the Cambodian infantry on the border. We see that the gun is ready to fire. The gun fires, and that was the end of the clip. They didn't go to heaven, folks. That's just how the clip ended, just to make that
Yeah,
clear.
really, man. The film went totally white. That honestly, like seeing the dust kick up from that, like that really shows you the massive shockwave that comes off of those when you actually fire them. That is some serious power coming off that gun. I wonder what that really feels like to stand that close to it and have it go off. It must be like bone shaking.
Let's see here. Apparently the M758 is some kind of a dress. So let me go pull up the SPG really quickly. Here we go. This is the gun. It's an Atmos, and this is a 155 millimeter gun. So this is a NATO standard. The sort of firepower that comes off of 155 millimeter is really strong. And considering that the ground is dry around here and it allows for the dust to kick up, it really does show that kind of a power. I bet you the shockwave from this rattles your whole body. I bet you can feel it down to the bones. Like that's pretty strong. But moving on from that, and that fire support mission still being conducted by the Thai, we also were able to confirm that once again the Cambodians were still firing more MLRSs across the border. This is probably their only saving grace in the entirety of the Cambodian armed forces, is that they have a somewhat larger amount of MLRSs. And here is that clip as well. That's the end of that clip, but I also like to point out once again to all of y'all that it appears that there's no traffic coordinating being done. This grad literally stopped in the middle of the road, aimed the launcher, and just started firing without stopping traffic. A clear safety violation, if you wanted to put it that way. But nevertheless, it does appear that the Cambodians are still firing off the rocket artillery like there is no tomorrow. And this has led a lot of people to talk about what is going on, at least at the moment, inside of Thailand, because we were able to hear earlier today that martial law has been declared in parts of Thailand's eastern border regions amid continued clashes with Cambodia, according to the Thai Border Defense Command. It's starting to become incredibly clear that this is not a light war. This is not a small border skirmish, and this is not a border war. This is quite truly, even as of today, a full-on total war between Thailand and the Cambodians. And a lot of people have been putting in their thoughts and opinions on what this means for the Thai to be declaring martial law in their border districts. And Matthew, what are people thinking about this, and what are you thinking about it as well?
All right. So certainly it's a very big move to actually declare martial law anywhere in Thailand. Obviously, that indicates that things are getting out of control. So what do you think about this brand new development? So 51% said that's a very bad sign, while 30% said it's just an early precaution, and 8% said it seems like an overreaction by the Thailand authorities. And based on what we're gathering, and once again, basically what martial law is, it's the temporary suspension of the traditional laws in an area because things have gotten so out of control that the authorities believe they have to suspend the law to keep order. So that tells you how bad it is. And this also indicates the fighting is starting to spread because now they're having to declare martial law in multiple different border districts. That means they can't guarantee the safety of the civilians, and therefore they have to suspend the law. So I would say that's a very bad sign. That indicates this is getting extremely out of control, and I'm with the 51%. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say that this is a very bad sign, not necessarily for Thailand. It is more so a bad sign for the escalation of the conflict in general, as it's going to become incredibly clear that this is not a conflict that is going to come and go quite quickly. This is going to be a conflict that is around for a little while. The declaration of martial law usually comes in a situation where the outbreak of war and the severity of the fighting requires that all available actions be taken by the military to stabilize the situation and to maintain order inside of the frontline areas or throughout the country in a wartime scenario. And considering that the Thai government is starting to declare martial law throughout these specific regions that the war is happening in right now, it's making it incredibly clear that this is an all-hands-on-deck sort of a conflict. This isn't a small border skirmish to be dealt with by the border guards. This isn't a border war that will be done in a week like the one between India and Pakistan. This is full-on a total war at this moment, and is most likely going to be devolving and getting even worse because both sides have made it incredibly clear neither one is going to be accepting any attempt at negotiating a peace at the moment. This isn't even the Indian or the Pakistani situation to where they said that, but then we also knew that diplomats were meeting. Both leaders of Thailand and Cambodia have stated they are not looking for any sort of a diplomatic cessation to the hostilities at the moment right now. The Thai Prime Minister made that incredibly clear to Xi Jinping and the President of the United States today, as well as the Prime Minister of Cambodia also making that clear to the President of the United States and the People's Republic of China earlier today. So neither side is looking for an end to this war, at least right now. So this is showing that it is going to be getting worse, and we're most likely going to be seeing that Cambodia and Thailand are going to be throwing just about everything they have at the border. But as to how long this war will be going on, at the longest it can go on, it most likely is going to be lasting maybe a half year at the longest. Because while the Cambodians do not have an air force, it is going to take a little while for the Thai, which generally emphasize an air superiority doctrine, to be able to wipe out most of the heavier threats that Cambodia's armed forces pose on the ground from the skies, which may take some time, and then they'll start to conduct ground offensives into Cambodia after the heavier resistance has already been knocked out by the Thai Air Force, meaning that this could go on at the longest for months. At the shortest, this could go on for only a few more weeks. We're not entirely sure, however, and also there may be an attempt by some outside party, America, to try and force a ceasefire, even if a ceasefire is not something that either side would like. And we could see that also happen as well. But we're not entirely sure what the outcome will be at the moment on how long this war will really go, but I can guarantee y'all that at the longest at the moment, it looks like it's probably going to get up towards about 6 months in length, or maybe even a little bit longer than that. Still, I hope that does address that well, at least at the moment. And moving on into some of our last bits of video and picture evidence from the front line right now, we were able to see another Thai helicopter unit actually conducting some sort of an aerial assault on the Cambodian position within the jungle areas of the border, near to some sort of a hilly region. I actually hear them laying down the fire with a minigun.
Wow. Hadn't seen that in a long time.
I haven't seen that ever. Like, the last time I saw that, I think it was like the Federal Marines of Mexico lighting up a cartel leader in his house. But I've never seen this in actual war.
Damn, man, this is a gunship right here. They're unleashing with everything. That's impressive. They've got a minigun on the helicopter, though. That is wild. Like a minigun and a helicopter over a jungle warfare environment. That's crazy.
That's wild. I actually have not seen a lot of people using the miniguns because the miniguns are usually considered by most people in the modern day to be prone to failure. Because for the Gatling gun to work, well, for any Gatling style gun to work like the miniguns are, you have to have some sort of a pretty much like a power drill motor attached to it to spin the barrels, which also operates the action simultaneously. It's not like a gas operated sort of a system or a recoil operated system like other firearms. And so for that reason, they are somewhat more prone to failure due to their mechanical complexity. And not only that, they guzzle ammunition very quickly. And so usually a lot of armed forces prefer not to use the minigun because of its cost and effectiveness and also the lack of the ease of maintenance. But it appears that the Royal Thai Army is perfectly fine with using them, and it is quite impressive to see them in action, to be entirely honest with y'all. It's actually crazy to hear them. But beyond that, it does appear that the Thai are bringing back the spooky gunships of the Vietnam War over the jungles of Cambodia, and it does appear that this war is going to be going on for some time. But we also have something else that's a little bit big to share with you all out of the region today as well. And this is also showing us that at least as far as the Department of State is concerned, our chips are clearly behind the Thailanders at the moment, or the Kingdom of Thailand. The USS Nimitz carrier strike group actually arrived in a Thai port today. Unfortunately, I wouldn't be able to tell y'all which one. It wasn't stated, at least in that post, but I'm guessing that it most likely is the port of Pattaya City. Most likely not Bangkok itself, considering that Bangkok really doesn't have any port infrastructure along its coast. It most likely will be the port of Liam Chabang or further on down towards Pattaya City. Nevertheless, we were able to see USS Nimitz actually weighed anchor, well, didn't weigh anchor, cast its anchor inside of the harbor today on a visit to Thailand. This was a planned port of call before the USS Nimitz was deployed. These sorts of ports of call are usually pre-planned, but they can be canceled if there is a situation to arise where the United States either does not want to show diplomatic support to a country or armed support for that country in any kind of a given situation. The fact that they still went forward with making this port of call means that they did get approval to do this from the U.S. Secretary of Defense, and the U.S. Secretary of State was also able to say that this aligned with U.S. foreign policy prerogatives at the moment within Southeast Asia. So for this reason, it is clearly showing by the presence of this aircraft carrier in this Thai harbor that the United States of America is starting to show clear, I guess you could say diplomatic support at best right now towards the Kingdom of Thailand in this conflict. Also, I like that in honor of the American Navy arriving, it appears that the Thai actually painted their water seafoam green, which we all know is very pleasing to the eye and stops you from going psychotic. If you're from the Navy, you'll know. But beyond that, it does appear that at the moment the United States of America is clearly putting its chips behind the Thai, which is a pretty smart move. Thailand is the larger economy between the two. It also has the larger armed force, and generally is considered to be an all-around safer bet to support than the Cambodians. But this leaves a lot of people with the big question. If America is supporting Thailand, and generally there's always a push to the pull, what are the Chinese going to do with Cambodia? Are they going to get involved at all, or are they going to stay completely neutral? And that is the question of the day. And Matthew, what are people thinking about that? And what are you thinking about that as well?
All right, so the question is, and once again, we've heard that Thailand has rejected third-party offers, including China's offer, to mediate the war with Cambodia, and they say they'd prefer to fight this out or only negotiate with Cambodia directly. So the big question is, now that it's been rejected, is China going to get offended and also get aggressive against Thailand at the exact same time? So 48% said no, China will stay neutral for now, while 31% said yes, China will be offended by this, and 14% said it's a 50-50 chance that China does get aggressive as a result of that decision. Now, China so far has not really taken a very keen interest in this conflict, but that could change at any second because, of course, China has a major interest in the region because it's literally in their part of the world. So, in my opinion, if this probably does raise the risk of China getting involved, but it's probably not going to mean immediate involvement. If anything, China might support Cambodia maybe with weaponry in the future, but that only depends on how heated this gets, and it also depends on if the U.S. gets involved on the Thailand side as well. And I mean get involved, I mean diplomatically. So far, the U.S. has not made any direct statements about Thailand support, so I would say China's probably going to hold off, but the moment the U.S. jumps into that situation, then China is going to rethink their position because then they see a chance for possibly a proxy war against the United States, at least in my opinion. So I'm with the 47%. I think China will stay neutral, at least for now. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say that I believe that the Chinese are going to stay neutral because the People's Republic of China does not have an invested interest in dying on a hill for a nation that only has a $40 billion gross domestic product annually. It is not a major economic player. It's not a major military player within the region. And also, there's not a lot for China to gain from the relationship with the Cambodians. So if the relationship with Cambodia had to be broken because of this conflict in China's mind, this is not going to be that big of a loss. They can definitely recover from it and move on. I also saw some people saying, wow, for the U.S. Navy to sell the Nimitz carrier strike group right past Cambodia and into Pattaya City, that must mean that Cambodia's naval abilities, or generally their threat assessment, is incredibly low. The answer to that is yes, because this is the best ship in the Cambodian Navy.
That right there?
Yes.
Isn't that one of those old patrol boats that were like during the Vietnam era or something?
Yes, it is.
Oh wow, I think I saw Jeremy Clarkson driving one of those back in the day. But yeah, those are pretty cool, but that's not exactly what you call a powerhouse.
Yeah, the Cambodian Navy is so small, they actually don't have fleets, they have flotillas. And this is actually the flagship of their, I believe it's the Thailand Bay flotilla, is this vessel right here. So this is why the Nimitz was totally fine with sailing into Pattaya City, because it's not like it's impossible for us to fight our way out of Thailand Bay. It's not even like a fight would happen. It's more so that the Cambodians would come alongside and try and check your fishing and hunting permits with a boat like this, because this is something that in America would be used by the Fish and Wildlife Service down in Florida, not by the U.S. Navy or even the Coast Guard. This would be considered to generally be an insult. But still, that is why we went and sailed into Thailand. And this also lets y'all know they're kind of cooked. Like, if y'all want to actually see the full fleet that they have, this is the best that they have in the Mekong flotilla. They also have these right here, which are...
Yeah, that looks pretty rusty already, I would say.
They also have these.
Why is it like a painting of it? What is it, like a historic or extinct or something?
They're kind of like almost extinct. These were used by America, actually. These things
Those are bad, man. That's one of the worst ones I've ever seen America come up with. Those are tough.
They also have these.
That's not too bad looking. Oh, look, it's like a hydrofoil type ship. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, it actually is a hydrofoil, actually. And then they also have some landing craft, like of the type that were used at D-Day nearly. And they also have in their Bay of Thailand flotilla the Ko Yor class, which is a light patrol boat.
Yeah, it's not too bad. It looks like that's a Ukrainian one right there, isn't it? You say?
Yes, it actually is. They also have some other vessels, the Shursen class patrol boat, which is generally an anti-aircraft patrol boat. And they also have the Ka Polai class, which is also, once again, similar to that of a small minesweeper, at least in terms of firepower. So, once again, their Navy really doesn't have a lot that's impressive inside of it. It's an incredibly weak Navy, so it doesn't pose any threat to the U.S. Navy. It doesn't really pose any threat to Thailand either, because let me go show you this. The Thailand Navy. Let me go show you all this, because this once again starts to show the disparity or the different. Also, I like their logo. That's actually pretty cool looking.
That is cool. I like that.
It's pretty drippy. So let's see what they have in terms of modern ships. Where in the world is the list of ships? Do they not have a list of ships on here? They have to have a list of ships. Here we go. So, they have one submarine that they bought from China, and then they have one helicopter. Oh my god, they actually have an LHD. So they actually have an LHD. This is the one. It's not a big or an impressive one, but they still have an LHD, which is a lot more than Cambodia could ever offer. Oh, there's an actual picture of the one in service. They kind of like spruced it up. I think they gave it the lead-based paint so that way it didn't corrode as badly. They also have some amphibious warfare ships, the Type 71. They also have the Endurance class, and they also have the Sichuan class with no picture provided. They then also have a couple of frigates as well, including this pretty advanced one from South Korea. So clearly everyone can tell the Cambodians are losing on every front. They don't have a navy, they don't have an air force, they hardly have an army. it's incredibly clear that Cambodia is not going to be the winning dog in this fight. Because unlike the war with the Russian Federation, where one could say there were deep systemic corruption issues inside of their country and their armed force wasn't as good as the propaganda stated, the Thai army doesn't really have, or the Thai military doesn't have a lot of propaganda behind it. And even on paper alone, there's no chance in hell the Cambodians could win in this sort of an armed engagement or conflict. But nevertheless, we actually have breaking news coming out at this moment. So what do we got, Matthew?
Okay, so we have some breaking news happening right now in this conflict between Thailand and Cambodia. Right now, we're getting the first news right now that apparently Laos has been attacked. Apparently, 10 artillery shells from the Thailand-Cambodia clashes landed in southern Laos, apparently just about 30 minutes ago. It hit military outposts and civilian homes in the Champasak province. No injuries are reported, but that's coming directly from a Lao military statement. So we're not told exactly which side hit the country, but apparently 10 errant artillery shells must have hit Laos. So it's unclear if it's intentional, if it was an accidental hit. Right now, we're really not sure, but we do have that information on our Twitter page right now. But that's a big development.
And let's see, we'll put down Laos hit with strays. Because that's generally what happened, and we'll put that down in an area of the border where it's a little ubiquitous, oh, well, not ubiquitous, but anonymous who did it, because we don't really know who did it or who's responsible yet. But there's that little bit of news right there, and we can actually see the official government publication made by the Laotians stating that they actually were hit by errant rounds from one side or the other. Let's see. And they don't actually say whose, once again. They have no clue. So that is actually some breaking news that's coming out, at least at this moment right now, that now the Laotians have actually been hit by some sort of rounds fired either by the Thai or the Cambodians. I have a feeling it's a high chance that it might be the Cambodians that ended up firing those rounds into Laos, because look at them and tell me which one would most likely fire, some rounds into Laos. The Thai army, which actually had equipment, uniforms, and training, or the Cambodians, which looked like Rick and Bubba at a shooting range with their shirts off, having jams with their RPK. I have a feeling that between the two, the chances are higher that it would have been the Cambodians, more so than it would have been the Thai. But I might be wrong. It might have actually been the Thai. Who knows? But
now let's see here. Laos, who does Laos have close ties with? I'm trying to do some quick research with that. It looks like Laos is a member of ASEAN. Let's see here. It says that Laos has close ties with both Vietnam and China, and it maintains a special relationship with Vietnam. But historically, Laos is aligned with Vietnam and the Soviet bloc after the communist takeover in 1975. So interesting. So it looks like Laos has pretty good relations with China. So that's a big development. Now, Cambodia is the closest country that has Chinese interests as well. I would say between Thailand and Cambodia is definitely closer to China than Thailand, but there's still some competing interests there. But it looks like Laos is a lot closer to China, at least in my quick research, than even Cambodia.
very interesting. Also, another important thing to note is that Laos's border is literally straddling their capital. Like, their capital is right on the Thai Laotian border.
Interesting. That's a very close border.
Yeah, so if say for some reason Laos wanted to take aggressive action in support of Cambodia against Thailand, their capital is literally the front line already. It's already on the front line. That's the border. So probably going to largely be showing that they're not going to be getting involved. I don't really think the Laotians have any wish to get involved at all, because it's quite clear that Thailand's going to be coming out on top. And I don't really think that the Laotians have a lot of armed forces or equipment either, much like the Cambodians.
Yeah, maybe not. It's really weird that it's already getting dragged in. I'll be honest, just taking a guess at it, it's really hard to tell which country might have accidentally shelled Laos like that. It would seem to be that it would be unlikely that Cambodia would want to do that, considering that Laos is highly close with China, since Cambodia is probably looking for help from China at some point in the future, I would assume, because they need help from somebody because they're a ragtag force. But to think that Thailand, with their superior military might, would have done something like that, I have a hard time believing that as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. I honestly think that it's most likely the Cambodians that accidentally did that. because it's not like the Cambodians are well trained. They could have misinput fire orders and just fired into Laos, because the Thai wouldn't. Because from what we know, the only fires that have come from around the Ubon Ratchathani area are from the Cambodians, not from the Thai. And if the Thai are engaging the Cambodians, they're going to be firing directly south along the border. If the Cambodians are firing, they're firing north. So that would give them a little bit of a chance, at least, to hit within the Champasak region.
Yeah, maybe so. I'm trying to get some more information on this, by the way, to see exactly who struck them. I see some people saying that it was definitely Cambodia. There's no evidence that I can find that distinctly states that Cambodia was the country to do it, but I guess the best explanation would probably be the enforcers. It would probably be blamed on the Cambodians' poor military training as the reason why they simply sent some shells errant into Laos. That's the best case scenario, because if it was something else, it could get really heated.
Man, whoever the artillery commander was that fired those shells into that country, they must have been a louse.
A complete louse. What a louse.
An absolute louse. A horrific louse. Unlike the Laotians, which are apparently quite an interesting people with a very rich and interesting culture. But nevertheless, it is time for us to move on into another question that we have for all of y'all about this situation happening between Thailand and Cambodia. Should U.S. officials have already intervened in this conflict by now? And what are people thinking about this, Matthew? What are you thinking about it as well?
All right. So surprisingly, a overwhelming 75% said no, the U.S. should hold off for now and stay out of the conflict between Thailand and Cambodia, while 9% said the U.S. should have already intervened, and 8% said I'm somewhat indifferent on it. And on this one right here, I would actually say I'm with 75%. It is smarter for the U.S. to hold off on this one, because with China having a distinct interest in this region, we don't want to get too heavily and gung-ho with going into this area and starting to basically exact our will here right off the bat. Now, eventually, we might have to. If the conflict gets too heated between Cambodia and Thailand, we will have to back up our partner, which is Thailand. But we don't want to jump to that. Right now, Thailand is perfectly capable of handling this, and Cambodia is a very poorly armed force. So Thailand can handle their own here. They can pull their own weight. And unless something changes, the U.S. should probably just let this play out and see where it goes. And we obviously can't be the peacemaker for the entire world. Like, we're already involved in so many different fronts. We can't do this in every single region. So it's just merely functionally impossible, and also it's not realistic either. So, Enforcer, what say you?
I believe that we should make our diplomatic support for Thailand clear, which we already have done with the Nimitz arrival. So I think that that's already been achieved. And I think beyond that, we should not get involved in this. This is a fairly large war. It is a full-scale war at this point. But at the same time, the Thai government is going to have this clearly in hand. There's no reason in trying to escalate this into some sort of a major proxy war by showing our hand really quickly and really early. I think we should leave the Thai alone to deal with this, because I think they're going to be able to deal with this incredibly easily. And every single fight can't be our fight. There are a lot of major ones out there in the world, and I can list them off. Thailand, Taiwan, and China. Thailand and Taiwan have names that are so similar to each other, it's really hard not to get twisted when trying to say them. But Taiwan and China, North Korea and South Korea, Israel and Iran, and Russia, and really the rest of Europe or Ukraine. Those are the big ones that we have to keep our eyes on right now. And pretty much the Koreas and Taiwan are all tied up into one unified East Asian front. So we have to focus on the actual Eastern Pacific, not Southeast Asia, but the Eastern Pacific, well, the Western Pacific, or East Asia. We need to focus on the Middle East, and we also need to focus on Eastern Europe. Those are really the three major areas that we need to be right now. If a conflict falls out of those areas, then we can, of course, provide diplomatic support or material support, but we cannot provide any direct arms support or the threat of arms support for our allies, because that's going to be stretching us truly far too thin at that point. So I think, and also on top of that, I'm also a big fan of allocating resources where they're necessary. So, for example, if any of the three major areas I just talked about, Eastern Europe, the Middle East, or East Asia, kicked off, the one area you're going to see hardly any U.S. forces in is going to be in the Middle East, because that's going to be pretty much held in hand by the Israelis alone. The U.S. doesn't even have to be there. We do have to be in Eastern Europe, however. We do have to be in East Asia. So much like that sort of a situation, this is not really one that requires direct American attention immediately. This one can sit back. We could just sit back and watch it. I'm pretty sure at this point that the Thai have this in hand easily and will most likely be winning this. And for that reason, there's no point in us getting involved. I also don't think the Chinese are going to be that adamant on getting involved on the Cambodian side, because it's not like the Cambodians provide any real strategic value to the Chinese. They aren't a large economy. They don't have a lot of natural resources or raw materials that the Chinese are able to get access to. They don't have a large population. Strategically, they're not in a great spot. So I would say that it's generally something that China could miss out on and be totally fine with.
Yeah, I would say so.
I would concur. I would agree. So with that, I hope that does address that the best we can, at least from my analysis at the moment. But that appears to be the situation as it is. And you know something, Matthew? I have a feeling that a lot of our detractors are blown away tonight because most of the time, folks, y'all would hear us say we should be getting directly involved. We should be making diplomatic statements. For the first time ever, y'all actually get to see that it is truly a case-by-case basis. And in this particular instance, while I say that the U.S. position is clearly in support of Thailand, and it should be, this is something we do not have to get involved in, and we could easily just avoid and not have to directly be on the ground or make any diplomatic statements about or even provide direct material support through a congressional drawdown. This could just go on its own, and while we support the Kingdom of Thailand, we don't have to be there. So crazy, folks. It's actually a balanced response. It isn't a sledgehammer for every single situation, and it's also not strict isolationism for every single scenario. It's a case-by-case basis. And so with that, we are
we also at the same time, while Thailand is a partner of the United States, there's nothing that's super urgent about assisting Thailand. And once again, they're already able to handle their own business. They're well armed, they're armed to the teeth, and they clearly have better training than the Cambodians. It doesn't have to be world-class training. It just has to be simply better than the Cambodians, which is not a hard standard to, overcome. So if we had to get involved somewhere, like you were saying, it would have to be somewhere where we have a more prudent interest. Like, for example, the Houthis attacking the shipping lanes, that directly impacts the United States. So that would be more prudent to get involved in. But, Thailand, like, it's a good partner, but it's just not super urgent. So it's got to be on the back burner.
Yeah, but I do want to also say this for all of our Thai viewers. We do support your country wholeheartedly. The United States does have a strong relationship with the Kingdom of Thailand, and I do think that the Thai are on the right side of this conflict. But at the same time, I hope our Thai viewers do understand the U.S. is not an omnipotent being. We can't be everywhere doing everything all the time. And also on top of that, I think the Thai have this so easily under their control. There's not really going to be that much of a risk that this could go sideways that will require American involvement. That's my personal 2 cents on that, but I hope that does also address that the best we can. Moving on out of that area, however, it is time for us to move out of Southeast Asia and on into the rest of the news that we have tonight. And we're actually going to be getting on into the Middle East because we have been able to hear of some small, minor developments within this region before we move on into the state of Ukraine and the attempted attack against the Kerch Bridge and the other major developments that have happened over the day. But before we get into all of those, I do want to make sure that we get to chit-chat with a couple of y'all, at least here for a minute, to give us a little bit of a segue into the second segment and the other areas of the world that we have news in tonight. So, Matthew, what do we got?
All right, so let's jump into our first super chat of the night, and this one goes to Old Warrior, who's of course a longtime channel legend and a consistent supporter of the channel, and thank you very much, Old Warrior, for that support once again. He threw in a $50 donation, and we do appreciate that very, very much. And Old Warrior says, do you think the Nimitz will provide maintenance or other support for Thai F-16s, and any news from China that might be related to that?
And I thank you for the massive support, Old Warrior. I do not think that the Nimitz is going to be doing anything around Thailand rather than largely showing that the U.S. still has some sort of diplomatic support for the Thai. I think that's generally what it's going to be doing because the Nimitz only has the ability to repair or maintenance. I believe it actually has only squadrons of F-18 Super Hornets on board, Greyhounds, and a couple of other typical aircraft you would find on a Nimitz-class carrier, so they wouldn't have an ability to provide maintenance or technical expertise for the F-16s, and also Thailand has a great depth of experience over the decades of their ownership on the F-16s that they don't necessarily need any additional training or any extra details provided by technicians from the Nimitz. So I generally would have to say that the Nimitz is just there to conduct its standard port of call that it was given its standing orders for before its deployment, and that this is generally more so a diplomatic show of support for the Thai, although the U.S. is not going to be directly involved in this conflict from what we can tell anytime soon or ever at all. So I hope that does address that the best I can. A huge thanks to you, Old Warrior, for the support. And also, I saw a lot of people pointing out something as well. Speaking of Old Warrior Super Chat, that's a little bit important to know. This is going to be the last deployment of the USS Nimitz. So this is the last time that the Nimitz is ever going to visit Thailand in its service life, in its final deployment. I just saw Jay Murr bring that up, and that's actually a little bit interesting because the Nimitz is the very flagship of that class. The class is named after the Nimitz itself. And that was actually the first aircraft carrier of its type put into service. Sadly, it's going to be decommissioned. There is no plan to make it into a museum ship of any type due to the fact that those sorts of designs that are used in the Nimitz are pretty much being copied a lot for the Gerald R. Ford in many ways. So allowing it to become a museum ship actually allows for a lot of people to get to have access, foreign actors, for example, to a museum ship that is actually incredibly close, if not comparable still, to a Gerald R. Ford class. So sadly, this thing is going to be getting the scrapper's torch once it's towed away, or generally, from what I know, it's going to become a part of the mothball fleet somewhere on the east or the west coast and just stay around in that condition for a while, and then be brought off to the scrappers eventually, or sunk to create an artificial reef, which is also something that's done from time to time with larger vessels like these. But still, it's an interesting thing because it's the beginning of the end technically for the Nimitz class as a whole, because there is a plan to start decommissioning and retiring a lot of the older Nimitz class carriers and to slowly replace them with the Ford class carriers, which are starting to become all the craze these days. Honestly,
It seems like the Nimitz is like looking for like a going out with a big bang or something. They keep sending this thing around to like really hotbeds around the world. Like, didn't it stop in the Middle East before it got to Thailand?
Actually, sadly, the Nimitz never made it to the Middle East. It stopped in Southeast Asia,
Oh, okay.
because the whole conflict had ended. So it was, I think it was the Harry S. Truman and the Theodore Roosevelt. Well, actually, no, it was the Carl Vinson and the Theodore Roosevelt that were in the Arabian Sea during the Houthi conflict and the conflict with Iran. But the Nimitz never made it. It ended up in the South China Sea, conducted a naval exercise in the Timor Sea with the Royal Navy, and then it ended up steaming to Thailand, and that's where it is at the moment right now.
Interesting. That'll just keep it around for a while. I'm sure it'll be probably needed at some point here in the near future because it seems like between all these wars popping off that it's getting a higher risk for a larger war to pop off. So maybe the Nimitz might want to stick around for a while and not get sunk. We might need the thing.
Yeah, it's such a shame that it's going to be retired after this deployment. But once again, the march of time is unforgiving. This is a very old aircraft carrier at this point. But let's see if I can get y'all a pick that goes hard from the Wikipedia. That's actually a pick that goes pretty hard right there, honestly.
Yeah, I like that. Very classic.
Yeah, very classic, really cool. It's also it's a shame, folks, because some of y'all may not know this. Did you know, Matthew, that the USS Enterprise was not a Nimitz class carrier? It was actually a Enterprise class carrier.
Really?
Yeah, it was a carrier of its own class, and it was also the first nuclear-powered aircraft carrier in the world. It was kind of like the proof of concept class for the Nimitz, and once they proved a couple of things with the Enterprise, they went, okay, now we can make the Nimitz class, and then the Nimitz class became the incredibly common supercarrier that we have in service still to this day. But the Enterprise was actually a class on its own. It was the only one of its class as well.
That's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, pretty neat. And let's see here. It was put into service in 1961, and then it was inactive up until 2017. And then, as y'all can see, sadly, it was actually stricken in 2017, and it's actually been ripped apart at the scrappers since. So the Enterprise has ceased to exist. Unfortunately, I have heard that they are planning to name one of the Ford classes the Enterprise, because the Enterprise is, of course, a historic name, not just because of its history in the Navy. There's been a lot of aircraft carriers in the U.S. Navy that have held the name Enterprise that are famous for their exploits, but also because of Star Trek. Star Trek has had a pretty big impact on keeping the name Enterprise around, even in military service to some degree, because of its impact in pop culture. But still, it was an incredibly interesting aircraft carrier. I mean, look at its original conning tower. It looks like some wacky thing out of fiction.
Yeah, it really looked crazy. What was that, like some type of radar or something on the conical tower?
I think it was. It was some sort of a newer radar, because I believe towards the end of its service life, excusing the fire that happened in Vietnam, but towards the end of its service life, I think that thing actually got yeah, it actually did get refit, and they got rid of it.
Huh, interesting. Yeah, I'll admit the first design looked a little bit goofy. The second one looks a little bit better. I like the second.
Yeah, I like the second. Dude, honestly, man, the tower on the Enterprise, actually, did they cut it down even further in another refit at some point? Because it looks like it got smaller. Um, Apparently not. It just looks like it's smaller. But the tower or the support, well, the conning tower or the sail on the Enterprise, honestly, man, was about as ugly as the Long Beach class cruisers, which are ugly as sin. This is the Long Beach, which is it's just a god awful creation.
That's hideous.
Yeah, we got rid of all of these, I believe. Yeah, we got rid of all of them, thank God, in 1995. There was only one of them, but it was the damn ugliest thing that ever existed as far as a cruiser in the U.S. Navy. But I feel like the Enterprise got a lot of design ideas off of that conning tower, the superstructure, because the sail on the Enterprise looked terrible. But anyways, with that, I hope that was an interesting aircraft carrier rabbit hole for all of y'all to hear about. But with that, I thank you once again for the massive support, Old Warrior, and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next super chat goes to Ross Nib, and he puts in a $50 donation. And thank you very much, Ross, for that $50 support, and we do appreciate that very much. And I think that might be one of your first ever super chats. And thank you very much for deciding to support the channel, because it does help to keep us running. And Ross said, the Khmer Empire strikes back about 600 years too late.
Yeah, I would say so. I honestly think they're about a whole eon too late, because I don't really think Cambodia has ever been a threat outside of the early medieval period in Southeast Asia. So a little bit late to the whole, being a threat in Southeast Asia sort of a deal. But, better late than never, and I guess they're going to learn their lesson today from the Thai, of all people. So with that, I hope that does address that the best I can. A big thanks to you for the support, by the way, Ross, and helping this channel to keep on running. Because I would say that was a good pun on Star Wars. And second, I think it's also true. And so, a big thanks to you so much once again. And with that, we are on to the final question of the segment, and then we're going to be moving on into the Middle East and Eastern Europe.
All right, this one goes to Rick Galenchin, our viewer from Canada, and thank you very much, Rick, for that 40 Canadian, and also helping to keep the channel running with that support. And Rick says, I'm going to the lake for 10 days and won't have internet service, so I'll miss you guys for a week, and also take one from the chat.
Dang, we'll miss you, Rick. We'll miss you, but it sounds like you're going to have a fun time at the lake for 10 straight days. Now, that would be a kind of trip that would be impossible for Matthew and me to pull off, because we would have to be off air for 10 days, and I don't think the channel could survive being off air for 10 days. But I do thank you for that massive support. I hope you have a fun time. I hope you have a great time out there at the lake, and we will make sure to get a live chat in your honor, Rick Galichin. But beyond that, I still hope you have a great time at the lake. So what do we got, Matthew, for a live chat in honor of Rick Galichin?
And this one goes to Valinger, who says, if it was a Thai shell that landed in Laos, how does this affect the course of the conflict?
It affects it by the Laotians saying, hey, you shot us, and then the Thai go, whoopsie daisy, I'm so sorry, and usually that would be enough. That kind of sounds a little wild, but that's actually the truth. Historically, rounds going errant here and there do happen, and there's a decent amount of diplomatic leeway, especially if you go, whoopsie daisy, we're so sorry, that wasn't supposed to happen. But if you sit there and say you deserved it, then you're bringing on a war at that point. You've actually instigated a war with the Laotians. But generally, the high chance is that if it was a Thai round that flew into Laos, and the Laotians go, hey, you hit us, the Thai are going to go, oh, sorry, we didn't mean to, we were actually shooting for the Cambodians, and the Laotians go, oh, it's okay, no harm, no foul, and then they'll just leave it alone and drop it. That's generally what happens on a diplomatic level. So I hope that does address that live chat well, and I could bring up endless examples of that, like Switzerland in World War II. Switzerland had some lenience. Like, the Germans actually ended up accidentally shelling a place here and there on the Swiss border, and the Germans would go, whoopsie daisy, sorry, we were shooting at the French, and then the Swiss would just go, oh, it's okay, it's fine. And then also, sometimes the Americans would end up bombing Switzerland towards the end of the war, and we'd go, oh, I'm so sorry, we were like trying to bomb Stuttgart or some other place like that, and then the Swiss would go, oh, it's okay, I guess it's fine. And also, the Swiss would also shoot down our planes. I don't know if you all know that, but outside of that, generally, it's something that's just taken as as a, oh, whatever, whoopsie daisy sort of a deal, and everyone just kind of forgets about it and moves on. One of the few times in the diplomatic world where you can actually shoot at someone and say sorry, and then sorry is good enough. So with that, I hope that does address that question the best I can. A big thanks to you once again, Rick Galichin, for sponsoring a live chat and helping this channel to keep running. And with that, folks, it is time for us to move on into the rest of our news from around the rest of the world. Before we do, however, I do have to say a huge shout out to the 15,000 people who were here live at the peak tonight, and also the 100,000 people who have viewed this stream in just the first hour and 20 minutes. A massive thanks to all of y'all, and if y'all are enjoying right now, please feel free to subscribe. We'd love to have y'all here. Believe it or not, we actually have 477,000 subscribers today, which I'm pretty happy about, and we are on the slow march to 500,000 subscribers here on the channel. And we would love for y'all to be a part of that 500,000 by the time we make it there. And so with that, it is time for us to get on into the rest of the news. Moving on into the Middle East, we were able to hear that the Houthis did fire another ballistic missile at the Israelis. It was successfully intercepted and shot down.
What is up with this like single missile strategy they keep doing here? Like, it makes no sense at all what they're doing. Is there it was only one missile that they shot down? That was it?
Yeah, but you know, man, like every time you say that question, you're like, what's up with this one missile? I've actually heard that the Yemeni officials actually respond to you in real time and go, relax, man. Like, it's no big deal. Relax, man. Beyond that, I don't know what's up with it in all seriousness, because it's not getting through the air defense at all. So I don't know why they're doing it. It's a mystery to me as well. Also, Matthew, rev up that fryer, because we're getting on into the Israeli statement made today that might be a little bit on out there. The Israelis are claiming that Iran is not making a nuclear bomb. They are actually making a electromagnetic pulse device, especially a nuclear fusion bomb, as well as standard fission devices.
Can you believe it? Like, they couldn't master the fission bomb, which is already hard enough, so they're going to move on to yet even a harder concept. Honestly, that doesn't sound believable. I'll be straight up.
A fusion bomb is what we call a thermonuclear weapon or a hydrogen bomb. So if the Iranians can't even really figure out the whole fission side of it with an atomic bomb, how in the world are they going to move on to a thermonuclear or a hydrogen bomb? This claim is a little bit interesting. I'm not going to say what I think about it yet. I think a lot of y'all can probably tell when I'm thinking about it, but Matthew's going to run a big question for all of y'all in the chat about it, and we'll wait for all of y'all to put in your inputs, and then we'll circle back to that here in just like a minute or two and ask y'all what y'all are thinking about that. Does that sound realistic, or does that not sound realistic at all? And let us know what you think, and we'll chit-chat with all of y'all about it as to what y'all are saying and what we're thinking about it as well. But moving on from that, in the meantime, and on down into Syria, we do have to cover the master plan that the United States of America cooked up in the Department of State, and also the master plan that everyone else cooked up around the world. Y'all remember how the Syrian interim government sent their army down to Suwayda and were conducting massacres against the Druze people living in the city, and massacred everyone inside of the National Hospital, which was hundreds of people, men, women, and children, all that sort of stuff. Y'all remember that? Okay, good. So let's fast forward from then to when the Syrian tribal army went down there and started killing the Druze, and then everyone in America said, like Tom Barak, who's the ambassador right now to the Syrians and I believe the Turks, said, you know, it'd be a great idea. Let's send the Waffen SS back down to Suwayda to protect pretty much the Jews of Syria, which are the Druze at this point, from any sort of future slaughter. It sounds like a great idea to have the Syrian version of the SS protect the Syrian version of the Jews. That's what was said. It's a smart idea, of course. We all knew that that could never go wrong, to send down the people who literally just got done massacring them to protect them. Couldn't have gone wrong, right? Well, today we got video footage that was put out by the Syrian interim government themselves of them firing mortar rounds into Suwayda, as they're technically peacekeeping, and killing the Druze. Like, they're still at it. They're still at it. Like, who could have seen this coming? Who could have seen it coming? Not me. I mean, like, you know, anyone with a brain cell would have known that this was a genius idea to send the literal Al-Qaeda hit team down to Suwayda to go protect people who clearly are not Sunni Arabs. Like, this was just a wise idea all around. And I got to give a huge round of applause to the Department of State and all of our officials in the Department of State, because you could have seen this one coming from 5 miles away. It's doing nothing but radicalizing these people in Suwayda. They're going to keep picking up arms. They're going to keep fighting against the Syrian interim government. And now they have a bone to pick with us, because we were the ones in the Department of State, mind you all, here in America, that told the Druze the Syrian interim government's army coming back down to Suwayda is a good idea for your safety. Now we're going to be radicalizing them against us. This was a stupid idea. Like, this isn't even up for debate. This was stupid. I'm going to let y'all see the clip here that is clearly showing the Syrian interim government once again firing into Suwayda with a mortar. Here you go.
Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar!
I mean, they're like this group is almost like a group of ravenous animals. It's like a group of wolves watching a weak animal and getting ready to slaughter it. I mean, like they're hyper. They're just excited about the idea of even getting a shot at killing any of these people, no matter who they are. These are.
And also, do they really think that they're sneaky? It's like one guy's hiding behind some blinder right here. The other guy's running over there like he's being real cheeky and sneaky with those. It's like he's literally filming it on his phone.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. This is just an outrage, honestly. Also, we can now see them whipping out the Toyota Technical with the Gush gun on a height overlooking Suwayda, and they're about to start laying into Suwayda here in a second. By the way, this is all from today, mind you all. This isn't archival footage. This is what they're doing to the Druze today.
يمين شوية يمين شوية
يمين شوية
يمين شوية حسن يمين 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 هذا باك صار يطش ليك هذا باك عدسون هذا باك يلا روح
It was
enough stuff. And look at them sneaking off too after they got done with it. They're going to try to flee the whole area.
And of course, we all know what's coming. We all know what's coming. These videos made it out against Jelani's orders. You know, Jelani's orders were y'all can massacre and genocide anyone you want. Just make sure not to get it on film. We all remember that from a couple of days ago. So now this footage is going to get out. So Jelani's going to sit there. I'm sorry, Habibi, but this is not my people. I did not command them to do this. I just commanded them not to film it. And we're all going to know how that's going to go. He's going to sit there and say something like, the Druze, they looked at them funny, and they had it coming to them, or something stupid. I'll be honest with y'all, folks. I'm getting to the point that I'm about to say the U.S. position on this is the most brain-dead one I've seen yet. It's a bad position, because here's why. So we're teaming up with the terrorists right now. That's what we're doing. And what they're doing is that they are being terrorists to the people who are not Sunni Arabs. So we're teaming up with the terrorists, which are going to turn against us later, and in the process, they are going to start radicalizing everyone that they're genociding right now, which are the Alawite Arabs and the Druze, against the United States. And while we're supporting terrorists, we're breeding more terrorist organizations because of their distaste and hatred of us, because we're allowing these people to do this to them. And we're going to be at least creating several new terrorist groups out of the terrorist group that we're supporting right now. It's a terrible idea. Like, this is the worst foreign policy prerogative I've ever seen. And some people, they're so stupid, they're blind. They're going to sit here right now and go, well, it's a great idea to support the Jelani regime. You know, it's a great idea. He's a good man. And then when all these terrorist groups prop up in the future and Syria once again breaks down completely into a balkanized mess on its own, and then all of these terrorist groups start their attacks against the West and the United States, people are going to be, oh my God, how did this happen? The Middle East is just not a peaceful place. It's a warring place filled with crazy, ignorant, radical people, which isn't the case. It isn't the case. It's full of angry people because every single time we go in here, there's always some kind of a foreign policy idea that is just absolutely brain dead that we implement that pisses a whole bunch of people off. And I'm not saying that gives them a right to become radicals and terrorists in the future, but what I am saying is that we're pretty much, with the actions we're making today, we are breeding the problems in the Middle East of tomorrow. It's a guarantee right now. I can promise you that. And we'll have to be back in Syria again, and we'll have to be trying to figure it out again, and it's going to be an absolute disaster again. There's got to be some smart foreign policy initiatives that are put out here to actually separate these people, put them into different regions based off of their cultural, ethnic, and religious groups, and then tell them to leave each other alone. That's the only thing that's going to work at this point, because if we try and continue to unite these people under one banner in Syria, they're going to keep putting each other down, and they're going to keep killing each other, and then they're going to keep getting radicalized because of the endless conflict and bloodshed that's being made because of these cultural and religious lines, and then they're going to keep radicalizing themselves. It's a self-sustaining radicalization machine at this point because of the instability that we are allowing to persist inside of that country. But nevertheless, a lot of people have been putting in their opinions right now on the statements that the Israelis made earlier that the Iranians are developing a nuclear fusion bomb, or a thermonuclear or a hydrogen bomb, as they're generally called in the public. But Matthew, what are people thinking about it, and what are you thinking about it as well?
All right, so back to that story real quick, this wild claim by Israel. Israel claims Iran is trying to develop an EMP, like the enforcer said, a nuclear fusion bomb to cripple Israel. And what are your thoughts? 36% said that sounds very likely, while 32% said that sounds very unlikely, and 24% said possible but somewhat iffy. And I'm going to say, I'll be honest here, I really can't give any credence to that. That sounds extremely unlikely. If Iran can't even master fission, which is the first step, then they're not going to master fusion. Like, that's just common sense. So, in my opinion, I think Israel is really stretching with that one right there, and it makes it seem really unbelievable to even put something like that forward. So maybe they got some intel that we don't know about, but, it would override common sense if they're suddenly developing fusion when they couldn't even do the first one. So, I'm going to be with the 33%. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to be with the 33% as well. I would have to say that sounds very unlikely. To be able to get down nuclear fusion, at least for a bomb, you have to get down nuclear fission. They don't have that down. They haven't successfully tested a fissile bomb, so much less are they going to be testing out any sort of a fusion based bomb, because they haven't even been able to figure out the fission side. And the fission side in nuclear science is much easier to figure out than the fusion side. So I hope that addresses that well, at least in my opinion, because I definitely have to agree with Matthew. I think that this is largely a more outlandish claim, because there is no way, absolutely at this point in my opinion, that they could ever create a fusion bomb. Fission bomb is on the table for sure. Fusion bomb, that's still beyond their technological and scientific abilities for the moment. So with that, I hope that does address that the best I can, at least in my opinion. And with that, it is time.
Also, a Jam fan said, with a bunch of Russian nuclear scientists in the country, I would not ignore that intelligence. Now, you have a good point. There are Russian nuclear scientists at Bushehr, which is a nuclear power plant inside of Iran. But the catch is, though, if the Russians were going to give the Iranians something or give them knowledge, they would probably give them knowledge of a fission mechanism first. That's probably what they would assist them with. I really doubt that they would jump straight to fusion, considering that the fission is probably what Iran would probably want instead, as an actual functional weapon, instead of a fusion EMP. So, it's possible. I won't say it's impossible, but it's extremely unlikely, in my opinion, they're going for that, an EMP style device like that would require a fusion mechanism. But, if the Russians were going to give nukes, they would have already done it already. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, that's what I think. That's what a lot of people may not know. If the Russians were going to do that, they're not going to do that super sneaky. They're just going to give it to them, because at that point, who can do anything about it? They have a nuke at that point. So with that, I hope that does address that the best I can. And also, I saw someone say, "What the hell are they talking about? A fusion bomb?" A fusion bomb is a very decorative way of saying it's a thermonuclear weapon. You can actually see that right here. A thermonuclear weapon, fusion weapon, or hydrogen bomb, they're all interchangeable. So if you've never heard it called a fusion weapon, simply it's a thermonuclear or a hydrogen bomb. That's what it is, just to make it a little bit more clear for people who may have never heard that term before. Because when I heard that earlier today, I was like, a fusion bomb? I was like, Because if you ever hear about civil nuclear technology, nuclear fusion, at least in a sustainable reaction, is still a good ways away. And so when most people hear that, they think what I think, and I would have to understand all of y'all's confusion for that reason. Because when I heard that earlier today, I went, fusion, but that's not even possible in the Western world. And then I pulled it up, I was like, oh, it's thermonuclear. Okay, well, that clearly is possible. We've had those for eons now, 70 years or so. So I hope that does address it well. Oh, look, it's a diagram, Matthew, of how they work.
Interesting.
Bro, why in the world is it taking the Iranians so long to make one of these then? They can just pull it up on Wikipedia and get the answer.
Man, I tell you what, the Wikipedia, it's a bad thing, I tell you.
Man, I'm telling you. But moving on from that and on into the rest of the news that we have for the night, we have very unfortunate news to tell you all. Well, actually, let me get to the Kerch Bridge first. The Kerch Bridge was attacked about 7 hours ago at this point. It was apparently attacked with Neptune cruise missiles and jet-powered kamikaze drones. We weren't able to confirm any impacts yet, but that does not mean that none were made. There could have been an impact on the bridge. It's just that it's going to take us a little bit of time to be able to find out if they hit the bridge, and if they did, what did they hit, and how much damage was caused. So we are able to confirm the attack happened. We just can't confirm anything beyond that fact. So everything else is up in the air right now on that attack. But moving on out of that, I have very, very unfortunate news to tell you all.
Tell it.
The Kuznetsov is being retired.
Oh, get out of here, man. That old hunker right there. I tell you what, this thing was slated to be retired like a week or two ago, wasn't it? They're just finally making the final call on it.
There were rumors going around that it was going to be retired. It's official now. It is being retired because the chairman of the board of Russia's United Shipbuilding Corporation, which is the one that's been trying to conduct this refit for about the past 10 years or so, stated that further repairs to the Kuznetsov are completely pointless. And according to a direct quote, the ship is already 40 years old. By the way, folks, when it actually went into refit, it was only 30 years old, to give you all an idea of how badly the refit's gone. And repairing it makes no sense. It would be extremely expensive. I believe it will either be scrapped or sold. Now, you know what's funny? He says that this aircraft carrier is 40 years old, like that's really, really old. Let me go show y'all this. The USS Nimitz, which is just going to be retired this year, has been in service since 1972. This thing has been in service for like 55 years. And it is still in pretty good condition, rounding out 55. Well, according to the sailors on board, it's not in the greatest of conditions anymore, but that's relative compared to the Russians. The Russians would consider the Nimitz to be a pristine aircraft carrier at this age because it actually has a running engine, unlike the Kuznetsov. But I like how he said it's 40 years old, like that's really old by ship standards. It's like, that is not old. Like, that's just ridiculous. The guy's trying to cover up the fact that they botched the refit for 10 years, and they caused, like, I think 3 significant fires to burn through most of the aircraft carrier in that time, and they damaged it more in the refit than they did help it. So that's what he's really trying to cover up.
Why don't they sell it? Like, they don't attempt to try to sell it to somebody? Apparently, nobody even wants to buy this old dumpster.
Nobody would buy it. Like, do you think the Chinese would want this? Bro, the Chinese can build their own now. They're going to tell the Russians to kick rocks. India can build their own. Anyone who would want one of these can build their own at this point. So no one would even want to buy this piece of garbage.
Yeah, and it's like the Russians themselves, like you said, have tried to fix it so many times, and they couldn't even accomplish fixing it. Not that the Russians are like master shipbuilders, but I think that's just honestly kind of a testament to kind of show other people that might want to buy it that it's just not worth even taking the risk on, because you end up paying for it, taking it onto your hands, and then trying to fix it, and then you might not be able to even fix it because it's just in foul shape. Because I don't even think the propulsion works, does it? We went over this last time, I think.
Yeah, the power plant doesn't work.
Yeah, it's just a joke, honestly, just a complete joke. And what the crazy part is, this right here is getting scrapped, but yet they released a brand new nuclear submarine. That's kind of wild.
Yeah, but it's funny now, folks, because Russia calls itself a superpower, a military superpower, even still, but it is the only quote-unquote military superpower on Earth that does not have an aircraft carrier. I find that a little odd. This is like, think about it, folks, think about it. Russia doesn't have any aircraft carriers. Britain has 2. Italy has 2. Spain has 2. But Russia has none. How bad off can a quote-unquote military superpower be if you can't even afford one operational aircraft carrier? You're broke-ass poor. That is what would we call them? What would we call them? That's someone who pretends like they're rich. I don't know what those kind of people are called by name, but this is
A
someone
poser.
this is a poser. This is Andrew Tate. He's got that Rolly and that dumb truck. That's actually someone else. But that's Russia. They have that one little shitty block in Moscow City right here that's made up of all these fake empty skyscrapers, and they tout that thing around the world like it's the whole of Russia, and the rest of Russia is completely falling apart. Absolutely pitiful. But moving on from that, we also got to hear that Navy Day was also scrapped as well, along with the Kuznetsov, apparently for security reasons. That was really all we need to know. It's pretty much the drone threat's big enough, and also the threat of Ukrainian Operation Spiderweb 2.0 and knocking out most of the Navy is such a big threat, they just canceled the whole thing. So moving on from that, and on down further on into Moscow, we also got to hear that there's some issues in the trucking industry. KAMAZ has now had to shut down more of its manufacturing, as the truck market has collapsed by 60% in the first half of this year. 60% in 6 months. That's 10% market share, or just market value being lost every single month over this year so far.
You would think that at some point these companies would actually fail, because we keep hearing over and over about how multiple different major companies in Russia are struggling, like they're losing massive amounts of revenue. But at the same time, though, they're not failing like you'd expect them to fail, because this isn't brand new information right here. Like, they may have just published this now, but this has been happening last year, this year, and yet the company is still running. They're cutting back, but they're not actually failing, which makes you wonder how much book cooking is going on here in Russia, because they should have failed.
Bro, call them Gordon Ramsay, because they be cooking endlessly. It's got to be an insane amount at this point. Dude, I bet you when Russian books come out, like after the Russian financial collapse happens, they're going to be cooked so badly, they're still going to be smoking.
I think so, honestly. I think Russia is in the phase they can't let these companies fail, because it would be such a bad sign for propaganda that they will try to like keep these things running no matter what. Even if they have to just lie and pretend like the company is still functioning, even when it's really not, they'll even do that just to force it.
Man, honestly, I think so. And we also got to hear in the Stavropol region that they were under attack today by Ukrainian long-range drones. Take a little listen. A little air defense fire. Oh, a little explosion. Oh. Oh, a little explosion. Look, it's an impact.
Oh, dear.
Bro, and they got that dog with them.
There's always a yapper somewhere.
Где?
Vadim?
Vadim, блядь!
А, вон взорвали, вон дымка пошла.
They blew up, obviously. I mean, like, you can see it.
Пороховой завод, походу, засадили.
I like how the Russians give, like, all of the OPSEC information, like, instantly on their video. They're like, so they hit the gunpowder factory in Kotovsk and Tambov Oblast. It usually produced this many tons of gunpowder a day. Very significant. Usually this gunpowder would go to the 6th Combined Arms Army in Ukraine. Big shame. Like, I always love how they do that in their videos, like some of them do. This is like, wow, thank you, buddy, for providing us all of this free intelligence. You did it ourselves. You did all the work for us.
And this guy probably believes he's a patriot, too. He's like, I'm reporting back to the Russian motherland, bliat. They love this report, bliat.
Dude, honestly, he probably does.
At least they were kind enough in that video to blur out the bottom where you couldn't see the dirt.
Dude, that dirt could give them away. It actually could. But in the words of the Russians, wump wump. Or wumpada wumpade. But moving on from that and on into the area of Suja, or more so the Sumy Oblast, we also got to see the Ukrainians hitting Russian forces up here in the 47th. We can see them dropping a 2-kilogram payload. Or as they say on the Amazon drone delivery service, your package has arrived.
2 kilos, you said?
2 kilos. In the words of Pablo Escobar, it's a good day, essay.
Oh, it's a bad day for them, though. Look at that. That dropped on them bad.
Oh, and there they go!
Dear.
Bro, they were kicking it. Like, oh my, oh, they running. Like, bro. Dude, the subtitles are on par. Man. Well, that's the end of that clip, but great to see the 47th Brigade at work. Moving on from that and into our location unknowns, we also got to see this CV-90 in Ukraine. We're going to have to mute the audio, but I just thought the video was really cool, and I like the CV-90, so I wanted to have a video show it off to y'all for a second.
Oh, look at the interior of that thing. That thing is so clean right there. It hadn't been used very much. That's a luxury right there.
Man, CV-90s are sick.
That is nice. Look at that. This thing is fresh.
Man, fresh and inviting. There it goes. I just think CV-90s are so cool.
Does Ukraine have a bunch of these right here, or is this kind of like a rarity still?
They have a couple of dozen of these things, so they're not rare. Like, they're uncommon, but they're not extremely rare.
Interesting. Yeah, I bet they want more of these too, because those old, like, Soviet tanks have to use from time to time. They are kind of disgusting compared to these newer ones.
Honestly, man, if they had it their way, they'd have an endless amount of the CV-90s, and they'd have an endless amount of Bradleys. Because Bradleys truly have proved their worth. I think more so than the CV-90s, but honestly, the CV-90 is aesthetically cleaner than the Bradley, in my opinion. But as far as performance is concerned, the Bradley has something that every CV-90 doesn't have, which is the built-in tow launcher or a BLAM, depending on what kind of a Bradley you have. But with the Bradley, you have the autocannon. It's smaller than the CV-90. The CV-90 has a 40 millimeter. The Bradley has a 25 millimeter. But if it's something seemed to be a little bit bigger or more dangerous that a 25 couldn't deal with, you have the TOW 2 launcher every single time. That's not an option that you get on every CV-90. Most CV-90s only have the 40 millimeter autocannon. Like this one, for example, only has the 40 millimeter autocannon. So the Bradley actually has a little bit more of a firepower array that can be used for a variety of targets, while most CV-90s don't have that. So the Bradley is more adaptable. The CV-90 isn't. But the CV-90 does look cooler, in my opinion. I think the CV-90 looks the coolest between the two.
I would agree 100%.
And so with that, now that we're in concurrence and agreeance, it is time for us to move into the Russian casualty report. And the casualty report was a juicy.
Oh, they got 0 Bobcats again, though. Like, why? Why? They've gone extinct.
But Miss Decent, keeper of the records, did say another troop lost below 1,000. Tanks and AMVs are above the 7-day average, and artillery and vehicles are below average. And over the course of the day, we were able to see that 980 Russian soldiers were wounded and killed, along with 5 APCs, 76 supply trucks, 3 main battle tanks, 31 artillery pieces, 196 drones, 2 cruise missiles, and 2 anti-aircraft warfare systems. In general, not an incredibly bad day, generally average though. Moving on from that and down to the area of Chasiv Yar, we got to see what Chasiv Yar looks like in the present day, and it is looking a little rough. It has been the site of a major battle for over a year at this point, and the Russians have been able to take control of about 60% of the town. Still, the Ukrainians got every bit of worth and value that they could out of the city, fighting for it for quite literally every square inch. Nevertheless, we also were able to hear that a lot of y'all put in your opinion on the Russians possibly cooking those books. And Matthew, how good are the Russians cooking?
All right, so going over this little article one more time real quick. The poll says, reports say Russia's truck market has collapsed by 60% in 2025 as the economy is failing. And what happens now? So it looks like the majority of people, 65%, said Russia will cook the books some more, while 20% said Russia will let the companies go under, and 8% said it's all overhyped news anyway. And I think the fact that the companies have not collapsed already is evidence that something fishy is going on, meaning the Russian government must be helping to prop up these companies in some way or another, because if you have revenue falling by 60%, and that's through 2025, that's pretty bad, and you would think that would result in probably a little bit more than just merely layoffs and cutbacks. That sounds like it's getting into pretty treacherous territory for a company. So I would say it sounds like Russia's doing something. I'm not really sure where Russia's getting the money from to prop these companies up, if that's happening. Maybe it's those rubles they're printing. Maybe they're tossing it over to some of the oligarchs. That's very possible, but I think they're cooking. But Enforcer, what say you?
I'd say I think those bloods be cooking, the way those companies be staying alive for a little too long. But it also may be the fact that they're cutting back on paying anyone anything, so that may also be keeping them alive a little bit. But I have a feeling that the Russians are cooking those books quite tremendously. So I'd have to agree with the 65%. Moving on from that and into Donetsk, we also get to see the Russian forces getting hit inside of Donetsk today. The Ukrainians claim that they hit this coal mine with precision-guided munitions due to the fact that Russian forces were building up around this area. area. And that's the end of that clip. Moving on from that and on down to Pokrovsk, we were also able to hear that the Russians did enter the city for the first time ever today, but were immediately repulsed by Ukrainian counterattacks, which wiped out all the Russian forces that did make it into the city. We were able to see video and picture evidence here showing the Russians moving in, and then we were also able to hear that the Ukrainians were able to push them right back out. So it does appear that the Russians have finally made it to the outskirts of the city of Pokrovsk after a year of fighting around its periphery, but it also appears that it'll take them about another year, maybe at best, to be able to actually take the city of Pokrovsk itself, much like we saw with the Battle of Bakhmut, the Battle of Chasiv Yar, the Battle of Turets, the Battle of Avdiivka, the Battle of Kurakovy, the Battle of, let's see, what other major city would there be? Actually, those are really all the major ones that they fought and bled over heavily to be able to take them at all, and each one of those took on average about a year or a little bit longer. So it mostly will also take them a year to eventually take Pokrovsk. But moving on from that and on down into Mariupol, we were able to hear that the Russians are bringing in more forces into the area of Pokrovsk and Zaporizhia to try and help out their offensives, and also supplies as well. Outside of that, we also were able to hear along the Zaporizhia front that some Russian forces were hit heavily by the 65th Mechanized Brigade, which we can see in this clip right here. And we see the 65th Brigade's logo. And we can now see them hitting Russians left and right.
Giving them the old-fashioned slammy.
Bro, old hammy with a slammy. Oh, is that a Russian? And Nicholas Condor said, you forgot about Severodonetsk. I didn't forget about Severodonetsk. I was thinking about including them, but I decided not to, because the battles of Severodonetsk and Lysychansk actually were very early in the war, during what we could call the Battle of the Frontier era, when the front lines moved a lot quicker for everyone, because Severodonetsk and Lysychansk fell pretty much combined in about less than 5 or 6 months, if I remember correctly, because it fell within the first part, or the latter part of 2022. So that's why I didn't include it, because it's like, it was a more fluid sort of a situation, because that's also when we saw the Balaklia counteroffensive, or the Kharkiv counteroffensive, as a lot of people call it, and the Kherson counteroffensive within that year by the Ukrainians, which also claimed a lot of ground. And so I was like, that doesn't really apply to the kind of stalemate that we've been seeing in the prior years throughout most of the war. So that's why I generally only included all of the major battles that have been seen since the solidification of the line down in this area, which began in the spring of 2023 and from then on. And it's kind of crazy to think that those are the only major battles we really can count beyond 2022 were those that have all happened pretty much inside of Donetsk, and really nowhere else. But anyways, moving on from that and into our next clip, we also got to see the Russians getting hit with hammers. Man, call the Ukrainians Alabama, the way they be giving them that hammer.
I tell you, look at this.
Call me Alabama.
I don't think he's going to be phoning this one in.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so.
Is that your mouse in the middle of the screen, or is that theirs?
That's theirs.
Oh.
That's why they were highlighting those little red boxes. I could never. But moving on from that and on up into Kyiv, it's now time for us to get to the speech from President Volodymyr Zelenskyy here on day 1248 of the news. So, without further ado, here is the speech. Peach!
Бажаю здоров'я, шановні українці, шановні українки. Провів сьогодні ставку, були доповіді наших розвідок, Служби зовнішньої розвідки України та ГУР про виклики, які є на літо, осінь, про наміри Росії. Ми детально говорили, на які загрози треба відповідати. Була доповідь по оперативній ситуації, доповідав головком Олександр Сирський. Всі оперативні напрямки, Покровськ, передусім, найбільше уваги, Сумщина, продовжуємо діяти в прикордоні. Я хочу подякувати також всім нашим підрозділам, які діють на російській території. Міністр оборони доповів про надходження допомоги від наших партнерів. Ми забезпечуємо надійний рух зброї для українських воїнів. Я доручив готувати технологічну ставку. І саме по дронах є затверджений план вийти на кількість 500-1000 перехоплювачів на добу. Це дуже непросто. На добу визначений термін. Це персональна відповідальність усіх залучених наших посадовців. Сьогодні був в області, відвідав одну з компаній-виробників дронів, саме таких, саме перехоплювачів. Я дуже подякував команді. Дуже крута команда виробників. Я вдячний розробникам і всім розробникам, хто просуває саме цю тему, робить її більш масштабною, конкретно у військах, у нашій обороні. Контрактуємо все, що можемо, максимально, всі виробництва дронів, всіх типів дронів ми забезпечуємо фінансами. Сьогодні ж був в одному із медичних центрів Міністерства внутрішніх справ. Центр, який займається реабілітацією наших військових, саме після поранень. Поспілкувався з хлопцями, відзначив їх державними нагородами. Завжди, ви знаєте, дуже важлива ця вдячність нашим воїнам, всім нашим людям, які захищають державу, бо захищають незалежність. Зараз готуються документи, всі необхідні подання на відзначення кількох українських воїнів званням Героя України. Укази незабаром. Провів сьогодні також наради з підготовки законодавчих рішень, які найближчим часом плануємо реалізувати. І, звісно, триває наша комунікація з усіма партнерами для того, щоб цим літом не втратити жодного дня, який може дати додатковий тиск на Росію. Я вдячний європейським лідерам. Я хочу подякувати Сполученим Штатам Америки. Тиск на агресора не слабшає. І це важливо. Ми готуємо більше неприємностей для ворога. Дякую всім, хто допомагає Україні. Слава Україні!
Героям слава.
I'm blippy looking sleepy. But with that, it's time for us to move on into the second segment of this stream, where we get to talk to each and every single one of y'all, hopefully. And I got to say that it is an incredibly fun segment. But before we get into that fun segment, I've got to thank everyone who has been watching this show tonight since the beginning. It is an incredible and crazy thing to see that 15,000 people were here tonight live watching. And 122,000 people have watched this stream during the news segment, and there's going to be a lot more who join us before the stream even ends during the question segment. I've got to thank you all a lot, because it is really crazy. I've got to be honest with you all, really blowing us away in terms of expectations, how many people are watching this stream. Because if y'all do not know, from a business standpoint, or at least from a YouTube algorithmic standpoint, which also applies to the business side of things, we generally are always scared to cover a new topic because we're not really sure if YouTube's going to be happy with us covering that topic or not. Because in the YouTube algorithms, there's actually such a thing as archetyping, which means that you kind of get cast in a specific role by the algorithms and you're not really allowed to deviate from it or really have any depth, breadth, or scale. And so for that reason, it's really crazy to see that so many of y'all have been here with us tonight. There were more people here with us tonight than there were last night, when our main topic was the Thailand-Cambodia war, or the 7-Eleven war as it's being called here on the channel. I've got to thank you all massively for watching. I cannot believe that so many people have joined us tonight. Matthew can't either, I'm very sure, because both me and him were very hesitant about even running the thumbnail and title we had tonight, because we're like, are people really going to be that interested in this? Or is YouTube even going to allow us to talk about this in the algorithm? And it looks like the answer to both of those was yes. And I got to thank you all massively for choosing this channel to not just be your Ukraine war news channel, or your Middle East or Israel war news channel, or the India-Pakistan war news channel. Y'all choose this to be your news channel on anything that's going on in the world. And I've got to thank y'all greatly for giving us that opportunity and ability. And I also got to say, we're very thankful that the YouTube algorithm is that lenient to us to give us the ability to go into the breadth, scale, and scope on any kind of conflict or any kind of situation going on in the world, because we are absolutely honored to know that we are able to cover quite literally anything, anywhere happening in the world. And most of y'all will always be on, or even more of y'all on than normal, to be able to watch the major news as it develops. It means a lot to us, and we thank you all so much once again for watching our news segment tonight. We hope that y'all stick around with us during the question segment. We love to get to talk to y'all and chit chat with y'all about any sorts of questions that y'all have, any interesting stuff that y'all want to bring up or talk about, even if it's not related to any of the topics or news that we brought up tonight. We are still absolutely happy to talk about most anything that y'all bring up. And so a huge thanks to all of y'all so much once again. But I've got to say, folks, another thing, a huge thing that also was a little bit concerning to us, speaking once again from a business side of things, is the thumbnail. Because many of y'all will see that earlier today when I put out my short war video, and also tonight on the stream, that I didn't put a picture of Putin or Xi or any other really recognizable world leader that's usually considered an enemy of the West on our thumbnail. It's interesting because this is actually the first, like verifiably the first female leader that we've put on a thumbnail, and also it's the first leader of a minor country that we've ever put on a thumbnail, and it actually ended up doing fine. Like, people actually still ended up watching it, and we were very shocked by that as well, because usually in the past, whenever we've tested out putting a minor power leader or a minor national leader on a thumbnail, it usually didn't do good. And that was tests from years ago. That's generally why we never do it. And so it was really interesting to see that y'all actually clicked on this and watched it. Because it's something that we didn't expect. We actually thought that putting the Prime Minister of Thailand on the thumbnails might end up bombing the videos, because no one would know who she was, because she's not a leader of a major country. But it actually didn't. So we were really shocked by that. I thank y'all for either having the knowledge of knowing who that is, or knowing that that is a leader of a country involved in the conflict. Either way, y'all still clicked on it. And I'm really impressed with that, really thankful for that. And that's also teaching us a lot about where, how far we can push the limits on making thumbnails and titles and convey more accurately what we're talking about, more so with the leaders involved, the conflict involved, all those sorts of things. So
also, I like it. I like it as well. You took the risk on the thumbnail, putting a different subject in the thumbnail. And also, if y'all realize, I'm sure most people realize it by now, our typical thumbnail format is title, subject, and background image. That's typically what it is. Every single time we'll vary it up so that way it's not visually repetitive. But at the same time, though, you took the risk with a new subject, and I took the initial risk with trying to jump right into this category on the first video that I put out about it. We were sketched out on that first one that I put out about 2 days ago. We weren't sure if it was going to crash out or it was going to succeed or not, but it actually turned out to do as good as our other videos about the other topics that we usually cover, which is usually the Middle East and also Ukraine and Russia, and a little bit of the China news as well. The Thailand news is actually doing quite well. I'm also glad to see that people aren't tuned out to Thailand, because that's an important area nonetheless, even though it's not somewhere we typically focus on. It's still an important war, and it's breaking out really quick. So I'm glad to see that people's interests are varied, and we also can focus on many different regions at once.
yeah, I'd have to agree. And I see a lot of y'all saying it's not the title or the thumbnail I click for, it's the content. And I thank y'all for being the people who are like, I'm not into the way a woman looks, she's a show. You know, like that Russian guy from that meme a long time ago, man, where he was like, you know, I'm in the club, but it's all about the soul. You know, and he went into like that deep, like philosophical thing. I thank y'all for being like that. But the truth is, folks, is that statistically, because we're involved in pretty much running a news channel on YouTube as a business, on the business side of things, the thumbnail and the title plays a lot into getting people to watch. It's actually the most important thing that we do as far as being able to market our content, is making a title and a thumbnail. And any YouTuber that you talk to with a great deal of experience will be able to attest to that the titles and the thumbnails are really the most important thing to getting people to even watch something at all. And then it's the quality of the content that keeps them around, which is the other third important metric to making YouTube content. So you want to have a great title and a thumbnail to draw them in. That's pretty much like your hook in the essay, if y'all remember that from school. And then the rest of the essay, which is your content, your actual video or your live stream, that's what actually keeps people around or keeps them reading, as it would be put in grade school terms when you write an essay. And so we have to be good at making a good essay, which is our videos or streams, but we also have to have a really good hook, which is our title and thumbnail. And YouTube doesn't really, at least historically, allow us a lot of depth or breadth in that regard. Like YouTube YouTube has an algorithmic requirement. It generally has a very good understanding of what viewers are looking for. So when we make a title or a thumbnail, and I'm talking about this a lot, folks, because it's actually a big deal that this succeeded at all today for us. This is a major breakthrough. As far as it's always gone for titles and thumbnails on our channel, at least over the years, we always had to include a major world leader of an enemy country to make it succeed. So if we're talking about the Middle East, it has to be Khamenei. If we're talking about Asia, it has to either be Kim Jong-un or Xi Jinping, because those are very commonly known faces. And if we're talking about anything in Europe, it almost always has to be Putin. Cannot be anyone else. And if we worked off of that beaten path, it usually would lead to a video that is a failure. And so today, I was like, I'm going to run the risk. We're going to take this prime minister from Thailand, which really nobody knows who the hell she is, because Thailand isn't really a country that is on the world stage a lot to know who the face of their leader is. I was like, I'm going to take the prime minister, put it in this thumbnail, and I'm going to see how it does. If it fails, we'll know that that's still the running trend. If it succeeds, then that means that people are actually trusting us more for our content and the fact that we are actually covering big news, and that our thumbnail is actually able to more accurately represent what we're talking about. And it succeeded. That video has actually gotten 200,000 views, which is actually bigger than yesterday's video by this time, by a good margin. And so that was shocking to us. And then doing that again for the thumbnail of tonight's stream, we were like, is it going to work or is it not? And it worked incredibly well. We actually had a larger stream tonight than we did last night. And so we were just shocked by that, really. Like, I don't know what's happened with that, with the algorithm, or if people just trust us so much in the content alone that the thumbnail doesn't even really matter. It's just the title that matters. I'm not really sure how it's working with that.
I think honestly, like I see some people saying, some people are very like loyal viewers to the channel, and also we love like the loyal viewers. By the way, like we really do appreciate y'all. Like it's very reassuring to know that we can put content out and people will watch it because y'all appreciate our perspectives and also the way we report the news. We're extremely appreciative for that. By the way, especially me, I'm very appreciative for that. But the way it works with YouTube is typically about 30% to about 40% of you, the loyal viewers, will watch whatever content we put out as long as it has obviously some value behind it, which hopefully we deliver most of the time. And then the rest of the viewers, the 60% on top of that, which makes a video really go viral, that is specifically due to the thumbnail and title, which is that's the only way a channel grows. So it sounds easy, but go ask people like the hot dog man and you'll find out it's not easy at all. There's a very exact science to it, and it takes trial and error over years and years and years to figure it out. You can go ask Mr. Beast that. He did it on a different level, and we're doing it in a different category. It's a little bit harder in our category, as we're not doing, just sort of like run-of-the-mill content. We're doing specific niche content, which is OSINT for a global stage, which is kind of interesting. It's also harder to grow that way. It's a lot easier to grow if you're a Mr. Beast channel, because pretty much anybody can watch that, be interested, and it's not too heavy. But our news is obviously real life, so it's heavier, and it does appeal to only people that are usually wanting to be in the know about geopolitics, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, it's really, it takes a lot of work behind the scenes, a lot of mental work. We got to click the pieces together and all that. And it's just great to see that it all succeeded today with this particular topic, trying out new and experimental things. Because I know a lot of people, especially if you aren't in the YouTube world, you'll be going, oh, well, that doesn't sound like a big thing to just put, the leader of Thailand in a thumbnail. And it's not really, like, from a technical standpoint, putting her in the thumbnail was very easy. But the thing that's difficult is having to take on the stress, because it was actually a little stressful for me today. I was like, I put in a lot of effort into actually filming that video. I was like, let's hope that this thumbnail and title doesn't destroy it. And then it went out, which is a fairly stressful thing, and then it did insanely well. And I was like, oh my God, like legitimately on our end, this is a scientific breakthrough as far as the algorithm is concerned with how that worked today. So holy smokes!
Holy crap!
Holy
Trism just
moly.
threw another 500 today. That is insane. Trism literally just threw that in yesterday too. That is huge. Thank you very much, Trism, for that.
Holy smokes! You know what, folks? It's time for us to stop rambling about the title and the thumbnail. It's really great that it did succeed, though, and I want y'all to know that because we were just shocked by how that was so experimental. Matthew's video was experimental yesterday because it just tested the Thailand conflict as a concept to cover on its own. Today's videos and streams were experimental and revolutionary, especially because the title and the thumbnail entirely focused on Thailand, and it actually did well, which was shocking. So, with that, let us get on into the questions, because we have a lot of questions, and of course, we have a massive supporter here tonight who is helping this channel to keep on running incredibly. So, Matthew, what do we got?
All right, so jumping into all of our supporters tonight, we have our first massive one right here that just came in a moment ago, and I don't know where it went in the spreadsheet, but I see it right here in the chat still, and Trism666 put in a $500 donation. Literally,
Dang.
the maximum amount allowed once again tonight. Trism also did that last night as well, so a huge shout out to you, Trism, for that extremely massive support, literally 2 nights in a row. And Trism said, rest of yesterday's intended amount, and I appreciate your guys' opinions and the effort you put into keeping us informed. Thank you very much, and LSA.
And thank you massively, Trism. I actually did not know that you were wanting to throw in more than 500, because 500 is like unbelievable to us. Do you know how many times, Trism, that anyone ever throws a $500 super chat in on this channel? It's rare. Like, it happens like maybe every other month. It's not often. And I gotta thank you incredibly for the unbelievably massive support that you threw in, because that is a huge thing. We run this channel entirely on our own. Matthew and me do. It's just the two of us. Like the Billy Withers song, just the two of us. And we do make it when we try. And we try very hard every day. And your support helps us to be able to keep the lights on, helps us to pay the bills, helps us to eventually get to Enforcer HQ 3.0, which is still coming around the corner. And I know a lot of people had questions on that last night, and we might be able to get into a little bit of that tonight, time dependent. But I got to thank you so much for that unbelievably incredible support, Trism. Because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to be out here on air giving our opinions, giving our analysis, covering the news the way we do, because we wouldn't be able to support ourselves to be able to do this. And it's folks like you who are supporting this channel that help the both of us to be able to eat our potatoes, keep those lights on, and have a hot shower and a nice warm bed to sleep in every night. That helps us to keep here on air and do this every day. So an unbelievably in unmeasurable thanks for the unbelievable support that you've thrown in yesterday and today, because everyone's support, no matter whether it's big or small, all comes together to help Enforcer Matt and me to make this channel possible every day, and we are massively appreciative and grateful to folks for any support they give, and incredibly grateful and appreciative for your support. This is unbelievably massive. So a huge thanks to you so much once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well, and with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, so jumping into our next support here, this one goes to none other than Shroom Smuggler, and they put in a $50 donation, and thank you very much, Shroom Smuggler, for that support, and also helping to keep the channel running in a very big way. And they said, Ramzan Kadyrov almost drowned in Turkey. Do you think that if he dies, that there will be a conflict in Chechnya? And also, there are pro-Ukrainian Chechens fighting for Ukraine, and will they return to Chechnya and fight against Russia there? Also, by the way, I got that tweet, by the way, Enforcer. I'm not sure if I don't think we actually covered that. I didn't hear about it personally, but I put it at the very top of our Twitter page if you want to show everybody. Apparently, Ramzan Kadyrov almost drowned while he was on vacation, and Shroom Smuggler is exactly right. He had to be rescued by the Coast Guard and taken to a hospital, according to the reports.
Bruh, dude, he went too far out to sea because he had a hallucination that a ham and cheddar sandwich was floating on the waves. But
this guy right here is like on death's doorstep. Like he was almost, what was he, dying from a liver problem like a short while ago? Now he's almost drowning in the ocean.
I'm stupid as shit, Don. Like I'm,
Bro, he's gonna take himself out in the ocean, like going in. It's like, what did he get caught up in a riptide or something, or like was he just like trying to swim and he couldn't swim? Like, well, I don't even know how you would start drowning like that. How deep was he?
Honestly, bro, this stupid idiot probably just started swimming out to sea like he was a damn dolphin and didn't think about it until he was too far out and too tired. And he's like, Don, I can't go any farther, Don. But anyways. Beyond that, that is interesting. I actually did not hear about that today. If he died, though, like to give an actual analysis on if he died, If he died, I don't really know what's going to happen, because they're trying to groom his kid to become the leader of Chechnya, is what they're trying to do. So I think he might end up coming in charge of the region in a way, because they're trying to set up Kadyrov to pretty much create the Kim dynasty, but for the Chechens, and it would be a Kadyrov dynasty is what Putin's tried to do. So I think that's generally what they would try and pull off if it's possible. And I don't really think the region would go back into war. As far as the Sheikh Mansur, because that's what the forces of the Chechens are called inside of Ukraine, is the Sheikh Mansur, and there's a couple of smaller other ones. But as far as the Mansur would go, I don't think they'd be able to go back to Chechnya to fight, because it'd be pretty hard to get them all back into Chechnya, because that's why they left, is because they were suffering persecution, and so it'd be really hard for them to return, because they're already in FSB databases. So if they ever cross the border through a normal port of access, they're going to be found, and they might even be found even if they somehow slip through the border without being seen and just started to hang out in Chechnya. The FSB may still find them and start to uncover the plot. So I think if he dies, he's just going to be replaced by his son, because they're not really leaders of Chechnya. They're more so just figureheads to make it look like Chechnya is semi-autonomous, to keep the Chechens pretty much from uprising again, is the best way to explain it. And so with that, I hope that does address that the best I can. A huge thanks to you for the support, Shrimp Smuggler. And I hope that was a good answer, at least from the analysis I can give. And of course, it can be wrong. And I also saw some people talking about he was drowning in a bathtub. Ain't no way. Ain't no way.
Nah.
Y'all are kidding. That's a joke. That's a good one, though.
He
That
came
actually
in the
got me.
bathtub.
You're not wrong. Like, you're not wrong, though. Like, I had to go check. You're not wrong. Like, he can't fit. Also, I saw someone say he was, oh, I see everyone's joking. They're like, he was in a paddling pool. Honestly, I could see Kadyrov actually drowning in, like a kiddie pool that's, like, 1 foot deep. Like, he just, like, his head falls into the water. He just doesn't know how to get out. He panics. You know, like, he's not a smart guy. He's pretty stupid. Like, when you listen to him talk, even in Russian, like, his equivalent of how he talks is literally like the hot dog man as leader. Aw, man, you know what I mean? Aw, man, it's time for a blunt. Aw, man. That's literally how he talks in Russian. So it's not like he's a smart guy. He's pretty stupid. But beyond that, I do hope that does address that well, at least the best I can. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next support goes to none other than Andrew Barbaro, who's another channel legend, and he throws in a $50 support as well. And a huge shout out to you, Andrew, for that support, and also always supporting the channel very consistently as well, and we do appreciate it. He said, "See truth, speak truth, and everything else will fall in line."
And I'd agree, Andrew Barbaro, and it's worked well for us so far. We come out here, we just speak the news with a pro-American and pro-Western kind of a tint to it, but it's still truthful news. And I got to thank you massively for helping this channel to keep running, because if it wasn't for folks like you, Andrew Barbaro, we wouldn't be able to speak that truth and let the rest follow, like we have been for some time. So a massive thanks to you so much once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well, because if it wasn't for folks like you, Andrew Barbaro, we wouldn't be able to have, 1, someone in the chat with a Smurf profile, and 2, we wouldn't be able to keep this channel running. So a big thanks to you so much once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And with that, it is time for us to move on into the next one.
All right, and our next one goes to Before Sports Cards, who puts in a $50 donation. And guess what? That is not Before Sports Cards. That is Fly Eagles Fly right there on an anonymous account. And thank you very much, good sir, for that support. And it's also really good to see you once again. I think it's been a minute, unless you've been here on that different account. Maybe I didn't recognize the second account, but thank you very much for that $50 support. He said, "Fly Eagles Fly here on another account, and I watch you guys every morning, and I wish I could catch more live streams, and congrats on the success, and I appreciate your dedication, and slava the free world."
And slava Ukraine, and long live the Lead Spring Army, and long live the Republic. But welcome back, Fly Eagles Fly. It's been a hot minute since we've seen you or heard from you. Like, we've wondered where you've been, actually. You've been the topic of discussion. I've been like, man, I wonder where Fly Eagles Fly went. But I gotta say, thank you for watching us every morning. We just haven't seen you. If you've been on that anonymous account, that might be why. But beyond that, a huge thanks to you so much for the support, and reaching back out so that way we knew you was out there. And thank you for congratulating us on our success. It's been a little bit of a climb, actually. Well, really, honestly, a pretty quick climb, as a matter of fact. Kind of crazy how quick it's happened, because we went, let's see here. Yeah. So this is something kind of cool to show y'all. This is the live sub count. So This is the history of the channel forever, since the start of it, way back on September 5th of 2021. And recently, since the start of 2025, we started 2025 with 330,000 subscribers. And since then, we have gained 150,000 subscribers just in the first half of this year. And that is a really crazy thing because we have never gained that many subscribers in that short of amount of time. Most years, we gain maybe 100,000, maybe 150,000 over the whole year, but not 150,000 in the first 5 or 6 months. That's untold. And it's just crazy to see that. It's even crazier to see what that looks like on the graph. Because it literally shot up, like, straight up to the sky, and then we just started gradually growing again after that. But still, a huge thanks to you so much once again. A huge thanks for the kind words and the support as well, because not only does your support help this channel to keep it running, but the kind words encourage us to keep this thing rolling day in and day out like a fine working sewing machine. So a huge thanks to you so much once again, and with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one here goes to Wubba, another channel legend. And Wubba puts in a $25 donation. And thank you very much, good sir, for that support. He said, think of the children and think of the 7-Eleven Slurpees.
And I'd agree. The 7-Eleven war is going to be one for the books for Southeast Asia. It's going to be interesting, that's for sure. And I got to thank you for the support. And we always think of the children and the Slurpees because it's always an important thing, especially when it comes to national security, to think of Slurpees and the safety of the children. So a huge thanks to you so much once again. I hope that has addressed that incredibly well. And with that, it's time for us to move on into the next one. I also saw someone say YouTube growth is exponential. You guys are going to the moon. Oh, thank you very much. We never know. Like, we could just like flatten out at this point and never go anywhere, because there are a lot of people actually who would disprove that claim that we knew way back in the day. Like YouTube channels that looked like they were going places really quickly and then they kind of like leveled out and then they died off. There's actually one in particular that Matthew brought up to me before the stream. And that guy has literally dropped, like, as far as a YouTube channel is concerned, dropped dead. Like, I think he has got, like, 192,000 subs, and he's getting, like, 6,000 views a video or something. And that is practically channel death. So there is a way where you might not explode exponentially and you just fall off the cliff. But that generally happens when you're uninteresting or very prototypical, or you're not even algorithmically viable anymore, which is actually kind of a little tough to do. It's tougher to do that than it is to succeed, in my opinion. You have to really screw up for the algorithm to delist you, like that one person. But with that, I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one here is going to go to Daryl Barkhouse. And Daryl puts in a 25, Canadian actually. And thank you very much, Daryl, for that Canadian support right there. And he said, I've been watching you guys for a while and wanted to chip in, and I love getting the facts.
Hey, thank you for enjoying the facts. We always love to get the facts. We love the facts. Nothing but the facts. And nothing but the truth. And I got to thank you so much for supporting this channel and helping it to keep running. Because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to be here nightly getting to cover all these big facts. And the news as well. So a huge thanks to you so much once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And with that, it is time for us to move on into that next one. So, Matthew, what do we got?
All right, and our next one here goes to Sam1234, who puts in a 20. And thank you very much, Sam, for that support as well. He said, I love the great coverage as always, and LSA.
And LSA. And thank you so much for the support and enjoying our coverage. We love to make our coverage possible every day. And if it wasn't for folks like you, where would that coverage be? Well, it would never have existed. And it's even crazier to think that it's existed for 1,248 continuous days. We might actually be around so long that we can end up covering news straight up for a decade, which would be insane. Wouldn't that be crazy, folks? Because that means we would have started covering news in 2022, and it would be 2032. By then, China will have invaded Taiwan. So I can promise y'all we'll still be around by then covering news, because there still will be big things happening by then. So, with that, I hope that does address that the best I can. A big thanks to you once again for support and helping this channel to keep running. And with that, I saw the comment you made, Matthew, that actually made me laugh there really quick. But anyways, with
the magic words, you never say these magic words if you don't want your channel to fail. You don't say it's a pissing contest. You don't say those words. It's terrible words. Some say the worst words you could say. You shy away from those words. You stay away. You say, I don't know who those words are. I've never seen those words, never heard them, never seen them.
Some people sit there and they say, it's not a pissing contest, and it's not a pissing contest, but one thing that is an issue is when you're an arrogant asshole, people don't like you, and they kind of pick up on it, and they start to walk away, and people will be going, where are they going? And they go away, they go to a dark recess, and they never return, or the algorithm just delists them, the ratings drop, but yeah, like, the stories we have, folks, of starting out as a YouTube channel. Oh man, folks, one day when we are sure that a lot of those YouTube channels are not even operational anymore, so that way we're not, just by talking about it, because a lot of people are fragile. If you even just state the facts neutrally, their feelings are hurt because it might not represent them in a good light, and then they start attacking. Once most of these channels end up becoming inactive, because at this point they're most likely going to, we will actually start to tell maybe a little bit at some point about the sagas of the early era of the channel within like its first year and a half, because those were some very turbulent times, because just about every single, well, actually there were some good people that we met in that period, but just about every single nasty YouTuber, like the nastiest people imaginable, we ended up running into within that first year and a half. And to be honest with y'all, that really set the kind of sort of direction that we do as a channel forever, because they were such nasty people. That's why we never do any sort of collabs with any other YouTubers or anything for that matter, is because a lot of these people were just so two-faced or so nasty. We were like, we don't want to have any direct interactions with other YouTubers. Like, it scared us that badly from how poorly we were treated within like that opening year and a half. But anyways, with that, it is time for us to move on to the next one.
All right, and our next one here goes to Andrew Voyager, and Andrew puts in a 20. And thank you very much, good sir, for that support as well. He said, Cambodia's GDP may be small, but Ream naval base is strategic, and a near copy of China's Djibouti outpost, and likely a second PLA base. And maybe Cambodia's boldness comes from Big Brother backing, and the conflict feels oddly convenient. Now, Andrew, that's why I told Enforcer before we actually started jumping into the videos yesterday, making videos about this topic, is I stated that China may have a reason to back Cambodia. Not that it's super likely right this second. It would happen later on down the line. But Cambodia is operating like they know they're going to get support from somewhere, because you look at their equipment, you look at their forces, you see obviously they don't have a whole bunch of money or equipment, and they're operating and firing off stuff like they've got unlimited supplies of ammo, which doesn't make any sense to me unless they know that maybe a big brother is going to come along and help them in some way or another. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say that possibly it could be. I would say that this isn't exactly analogous, at least from what I could see right there on satellite, to the PLAN base at Djibouti, because that one is actually fairly significant and fleshed out. Let me see if I can go find their base in Djibouti, because it takes up a specific part of the city while my eye has something in it. Of course, it's got to get something in it right when I was trying to use my arm to look around. Hold up, folks. There we go. Hopefully it's fixed itself a little bit. Where in the world is the PLAN base around here? Because it's in the city area. Uh-huh. Well, where the hell is it? It's in here somewhere. Everyone has a base that they've leased out of Djibouti, so what is up with this? What is going on? Like, where the hell is their base? I'm not finding it. Hold up, let me go pull it up. Chinese station in Djibouti. There we go. Where is it? Okay, so it's actually down the way. It's down here. Where the hell is this? Okay, hold up. So there's Djibouti. Okay, so let's go back over here. It's down here. Where in the world do they even support naval forces at a base like this? Because this is technically a People's Liberation Army support base in Djibouti, operated by the Navy. And I'm looking at this and I'm not really understanding where the whole naval support part comes in of the logistics facility, because there is no fuel storage here that I'm seeing. Maybe it's connected to the greater fuel storage of Djibouti, possibly. But there isn't really a lot here in terms of infrastructure for the PLA. But outside of that, even if it is just this, it's still not exactly parallel to the base that we're seeing inside of Cambodia, because to come back out here to this base, this one doesn't appear to be that significant, and it also has absolutely no supporting infrastructure of any type. So I would say that it may be something slightly significant to the Chinese, but also considering that this area is not too far away from any Chinese naval base, like for example the ones near Shenzhen. If the Chinese wanted to go down there, that is a pretty easy venture of only about 1,400 miles, which is quite truly a small little jaunt. And if they wanted to go to the Straits of Malacca, for example, that's not too far away either from Shenzhen. That's about let's see here, about 1,600 miles away, so quite literally not that much farther away from than making it into the Gulf of Thailand. So I would say that it might be somewhat significant, but still, in terms of Chinese naval power projection, they have to escape the bowl, because we built a bowl around them, and if they don't get out of that, they're screwed over. So if they really wanted an important base, the one at Djibouti is actually important for that reason, but they would have to try and find another country that would allow them to station their navy in, like Pakistan, or maybe even Madagascar, or countries such as those, because if they're still inside of that area, while they might be closer to the Strait of Malacca, they still wouldn't be able to escape, because we would still be able to create a bottleneck in those areas and conduct enough surface and anti-sub patrols that they would never really be able to break out into the greater Indian Ocean or the Pacific as a result of that. So I do thank you for the support and helping this channel to keep running, and I hope that does address that well, in my opinion, and I might be mistaken. Of course, my analysis is never foolproof, but I would generally think that this doesn't hold that much strategic significance to the point that the Chinese would die on a hill for the Cambodians. So with that, I hope that does address it the best I can. A big thanks to you once again. Also, I gotta say, folks, that the Cambodians as a nation are not known for making the wisest decisions. They did, for example, conduct the worst genocide in human history by the statistical percentage of the population killed. In their genocide, they killed 1 in every 4 Cambodians, and it was so bad that literally every one of their neighbors invaded them, including Vietnam, Laos, and Thailand, to end it. So it's not really like as a nation they are the smartest nation out there. So it's entirely possible that they could just be stupid enough to think they actually have a fighting chance against Thailand. That might actually be the case. So with that, I hope that does address it the best I can. I do thank you massively for the support and helping this channel to keep running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Ed Baines, and Ed puts in a 20. And thank you very much, good sir, for that support. He said, I see the Enterprise every time I cross the bridge, just to the edge of Newport News shipyard, and all 8 nuclear reactors are still on board, and my grandfather, father, and daughter have all worked on the Enterprise.
And let me go look at the USS Enterprise. Let's see. Oh, there it is today. Man, rip. It's so sad to see that.
That is sad, honestly.
Just sitting there, resting away. Honestly, the Enterprise was like was a really cool aircraft carrier. I mean, look at it. Thing was sick. And it's gone now. It's not ever going to be brought back into service, most likely. But still, thank you for sharing that. I actually thought it had been broken up. I had heard from someone way back in the day that it was being broken up. I guess that may have been incorrect information, or it may have been a premature announcement, and then they didn't do that. But beyond that, I do thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep running, because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this channel possible. We wouldn't be able to keep it running, and I thank you for sharing that with us, because that actually is a correction to some misinformation that I put out on stream earlier about the fate of the Enterprise. But a huge thanks to you so much once again. I hope that has addressed that incredibly well, and with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next super chat goes to another channel legend. It is Chef Danny B, who just came in with a $50 support. And thank you very much, Danny, for that support. And it's also really good to see you once again. And he said, good evening, Enforcers. Chef Danny here, cooking up all the goodness. As y'all know, one more long day than a rare 2 days off. What exactly is the beef between Thailand and Cambodia, and also LSA?
And long live the Lee Spring Army. And as far as the question, and I gotta say, Thank you for cooking up all the goodness. I'm actually a little hungry right now. I don't know about you, Matthew, but I'm actually feeling a little hungry. So
I'm a little bit hungry, just a little bit.
just a little bit. There's going to be a food run after the show's over. By the way, that's what I'm trying to line up here. But beyond that, I got to thank you so much for the support, Danny B. I wish I could have some cooked up goodness right now because I'm starving. But outside of that, I would say that the beef between Cambodia and Thailand is generally as follows. There's this Buddhist temple on the border. It's right here, and Cambodia and Thailand claim it as theirs. Thailand says it's theirs. Cambodia says it's not. It's Cambodia's, and Cambodia controls it. And this has usually been the site of most of the tensions between the two. But recently, what the beef is between them is that the Cambodians pulled a little Wile E. Coyote Looney Tune trick and snuck across the border and planted a landmine on a footpath that was used by Thai soldiers on patrols near to the border. A soldier stepped on it, it blew up and it killed him, and it wounded a couple of other guys. And because of that, the Thai government knew that Cambodian soldiers had crossed the border, violated their sovereignty, and not only that, ended up killing a Thai soldier as a result of that. So after that, due to unexplained reasons, and we're not really sure who did it first, but firefights started to break out on the border about 2 days after that, and then since then is now evolved into a full-blown total war. So this whole thing started technically because the Cambodians violated the sovereignty of Thailand, if we're talking about in the immediate short-term window, but in the long-term window, there is actually a decent amount of animosity between the Cambodians and the Thai that have existed for a good bit, at least at the moment. So I hope that addresses that well in the short-term and long-term as to why they beef with each other, because that seems to be the best explanation possible. And I gotta say, folks, that if we were talking about beef, Danny B, you know this as well, if we were talking about beef, why in the world wouldn't we be talking about the Mongolians? They're known for their beef.
Man, I'll tell you what, that Mongolian beef, that's some flavorful stuff. That's very good.
That's
Honestly,
really good.
Pause.
I thought there was going to be a conclusion to that.
No, man, just pause.
But beyond that, Thailand is known for, like, at least in my mind, Thai peanut noodles, which are pretty good, or sticky rice mango, or something like that. It's really good. It's really, really good stuff. Honestly, Thai food is really, really good. I've only had it a few times from like a Thai restaurant, but I'm actually a big fan of Thai food. Mongolian food is also pretty decent, or at least the Americanized Mongolian food. But I've never had anything that's been specifically Cambodian. So yeah, that's now I'm thinking about that. I've never had Vietnamese food either. Or Laotian food.
Hey, you never watched like those Top Gear specials or anything where they went through the area and stuff? Like, have you seen those, right?
No, I haven't.
Oh, you got to go back and rewatch those. Then that's why I know about the region is through Top Gear. It's like that's kind of sad, honestly. Like I've never really had a distinct interest in this region. Like I'm speaking about the Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos area, Myanmar, Burma, whatever you want to call it. I've never really had a super interest of that area right there. So my only knowledge of it, at least culturally, comes from Top Gear, which is not exactly what you call a top tier cultural like source of knowledge. But that's pretty much it.
Man, the only thing I know is Thailand, pretty decent food. Laos and Cambodia, famines, Pol Pot, communism, all that. Vietnam, decent food. It's not bad. South China, they're eating the dogs. Because it's actually true. That's where it comes from, is South China. But beyond that, I would say I don't really know a lot about Cambodian or Laotian food. And honestly, I've just always thought, because, of course, if you don't know anything about the Vietnam War, Pol Pot was coming into power during that time, so there was no food in Cambodia. So there's no, like, at least from my historical knowledge, I don't know about their cuisine. It's a black hole. And I don't really know a lot about Vietnamese food either. But I know a good deal about Thai food, Indian food, and generally Americanized Chinese food. But I do have to say, though, because some people say this as a joke, but this is actually something true. In South China, dog meat is considered a delicacy, and generally it's phasing out because new generations of Chinese citizens don't like dog meat like most people don't in the world, but it is actually something that was incredibly common in South China, and it's still incredibly common in North Korea and somewhat prevalent in South Korea as well. So just to share that with y'all, in case y'all thought maybe that was untrue, that's actually true to some degree. It's kind of like how in some countries they eat horses. I've actually heard that horse meat is good though. Apparently it's got like a something of a sweeter flavor. But I've never eaten a horse before. I wouldn't know. Would I be
There's
adverse
some
to?
animals. There's some animals I just don't want to like eat. Like the don't want to eat dog. Don't want to eat horse. Like any animal that is kept like as a pet. Like I just wouldn't want to eat that. It's just it goes against like just I don't know. It's not for me.
I'm not really a fan of eating working animals, and I consider dogs and horses to be working animals. So it's like I'm not really a fan of those livestock animals, pigs, cattle, those sorts of things. Those are perfectly fine to eat. And also some of the wilder animals as well, like gators, things that you would find naturally in nature, like bison and such. I find those to be fine to eat. But anything that's considered to be a working animal that actually either historically was used for the purposes of labor, like herding dogs, guard dogs, or horses in any kind of mode of transport, not really a big fan of eating those. Would I be adverse to eating a horse? Not necessarily, but I'd absolutely be against eating a dog. I cannot eat a dog. I completely refuse to eat one. I never will eat one. So just putting that out there in case y'all are wondering what are my dietary preferences. Horses, maybe. Dogs, absolutely not. We'll never eat a dog. Or a cat. I will never eat a cat either.
Also, by the way, I don't know where people are coming up with this, talking about salami is made out of horse. Salami is not made out of horse. I'm not sure where that rumor came about. Salami is made from ground pork, typically. It's mixed with various spices, herbs, and curing agents. But no, it's not made of horse meat. Definitely not.
Also, someone said, well, cows were working animals. Well, oxen were, but I wouldn't eat an oxen. Because I believe oxen are different than normal, for example, beef cattle. Let's see. So they're well, I don't know. I think oxen actually might fit because I actually just read. Apparently, they're just castrated male cows, or bulls. So I don't know. Honestly, though, would you eat a bull? I don't know if the cut of meat's different. I've never, really cared to know what the carcass was, whether it was a bull or something like that. I never really cared. But beyond that, I don't know. Oxen might actually be on the middle ground there. Might be the one exception to that rule. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address. The thing is though, is that with oxen, I don't know. Is the quality of a cut of meat from an oxen different? Because for some reason, knowing that it has a pretty laborious kind of a life, at least the oxen in a traditional sense, would the meat be tougher or would it be better? Because usually good physical exercise does make the meat better a little bit. Or would it be worse? Would it be more gamey or, stringy or something? I don't really know. That's a question I'll eventually have to find an answer to one day because that might settle the answer as to whether an oxen can be considered, at least to me, an edible animal or not. Because if the meat wasn't good, I would say that oxen are not, the oxen fit the criteria of any other working animal. I wouldn't eat them. So I see someone saying better, and someone said tougher. Yeah, a lot of people are saying it would be tougher, and that's what I'm thinking. The heavier physical exercise would have to make the meat tougher, and so I'm not really one for a tough piece of meat. I'm more so for the tender, like juicy cuts that you get from a normal, grazing cattle that isn't working hard like an ox. So I generally say that I think that oxen in particular are more so in the working animal category, and I wouldn't really prefer to eat them, and I wouldn't. So with that, I hope that does address that well, at least the best I can, in my opinion. A very interesting philosophical discussion, Matthew, on what would be eaten and what wouldn't be eaten. But with that, we are on to the next one.
Now, one thing that I would love to eat is those mozzarella sticks wrapped with hard salami. Oh man, that's good. I love that combo. That's a fantastic combo. I love even forget the salami and the mozzarella sticks. Even like just the normal like Colby Jack cheese mixed with like some type of cold cuts of some sort is fantastic. I love that. Maybe some like grapes or fruit on the side. I'm telling you what, that's that Gucci meal right there. You gotta love that. That's fantastic. At least to me.
I would have to agree. Stuff's bussin'. If I had to have a meal right now, what would I want? I don't really know. I'm not really that picky of an eater. but it seems like sometimes I am, because we like eat at the same places every day, so I'm kind of getting like worn out on those. But I'm generally not picky. I can enjoy most foods. Like anything. Spicy, sweet, sour, bitter. There's a thing to be appreciated in foods that are bitter. And it's really a part of the American palate that isn't exercised often is bitters. Because bitters can be good. Not all of them though, but some of them can actually be good and enjoyable to eat. But a lot of people in America don't like bitter foods. But anyways, with that, it is time for us to move on to the next one.
And also, let's see. Rosalie Wollman said, Matt, welcome to my Sicilian home. Mozzarella and salami are staples. Honestly, that's fantastic. Like, I would love that, honestly. That's fantastic. Like, I could eat that stuff all day. The only problem is, I believe the hard salami has a lot of sodium in it, which is not good. But I can probably handle the sodium for the taste of it. It can do pretty good. But anyways, jumping in to our next super chat here. This one goes to Hands on Fire, who puts in a $20 donation. And thank you very much, Hands on Fire, for that support. They said, thank you for all the work, and take one from the chat.
And thank you so much for the support and enjoying all of our work. And we will make sure to take one from the chat in your honor. So what do we got, Matthew?
And the one from the chat goes to none other than Elka Sir, who said, do you think the Ukrainians are planning to get Crimea so that they could alleviate the southern front?
I don't think so. I don't really think the Ukrainians are planning on really regaining a lot of territory at the moment. They're more so focused on the defensive, at least for now. And so with that, I hope that does address that live chat the best I can. A big thanks to you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next. Also, I saw someone say, reduce meat consumption, LOL. Monster Live, I'll be honest with you, if people don't like to eat meat, that's their personal preference. It's a free country. But I personally do enjoy a good cut of meat, steak, ribs, fish, those sorts of things. I think it's good. It's tasty, and not only that's nutritional, because humans are actually quite interesting because we are truly the most omnivorous sort of a thing to roam the earth. We can eat almost anything, and most animals can. And considering that we're quite blessed in that regard to be able to really consume anything and enjoy most of it, I generally like to exercise the wide palette of food that we can appreciate. So I'm a big appreciator of good cooked vegetables, delicious fruits. Good cuts of well cooked meat, not well done. Well done's terrible. Those sorts of deals. I like to have a little bit of everything and appreciate it. Bread. If you get a good fresh baked loaf of bread, it is the best. Like, breads can be incredibly good too. But I like to try and enjoy just about everything that's out there, like as a food type, and not really limit myself because why limit oneself? And also, it's the healthiest thing to have a little bit of everything, at least in my opinion. But with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next super chat goes to Andrew Voyager, who puts in a $20 donation. And thank you very much, Andrew, as well, for that second support of the night. And Andrew said, Cambodia's GDP may be small. Wait a minute. I think I might have duplicated this one, actually. Let me see here. Yeah, I think I did duplicate this. How did I do that? Wait a minute. Wait a minute. I'm confused as hell here. Hold on. Let me see what's going on. Let's see. Yeah, I did duplicate it. I'm sorry about that, Andrew Voyager, but thank you very much once again for that support. And we did get to call you out twice, so we do appreciate that. And we also have a 20 from another channel legend. It is Marion Deemer, longtime channel legend, old guard of the channel, who put in a 20 and said pizza jar.
Hey, thank you so much for the support, Marion Deemer, for the pizza jar. I don't know what a pizza jar is. Is that a jar with a pizza in it, or is it a jar made of pizza? I'm not entirely sure, but either one, I'm for. And I gotta thank you massively for the support and helping this channel to keep on running, because you are an old guard and channel legend and have been helping this channel to keep running for ages. So a huge thanks to you so much once again. Hope that does address that well. And with that, it is time for us to move on into the next. Also, I see so many people talking about different types of food. I gotta tell y'all, folks, I'm hungry, so my mind's on food right now. And I see some people are omnivorous. Technically, we are. And while you can eat beans to supplant the protein that you're missing if you don't eat meat, me personally, not saying that everyone has to eat meat, because you can do whatever you want. I mean, you could eat nothing and starve if you wanted to. It's a free country. You can do what you want. But I generally think that meat is good for people to eat. It's got a great deal of protein. It's got a great deal of additional vitamins and many important sorts of things as well that are housed within the meat that are nutritious for people. And if we were supposed to be vegetarian in nature, then we would have been an herbivore by design, and we're an omnivore by design. So it shows that we are supposed to have the wide breadth and variety of all types of food, including meats, because otherwise we wouldn't be able to consume them and digest them. And so with that,
You wouldn't go on that Soylent diet? You know what I'm talking about. Like Soylent. Soylent is like these little. I think it's based on soy. I think, but it's like these ready to drink meals that are like meal. I think they're meal replacements. I think, but it's like a liquid like version of like a meal. Have you seen that?
I've seen them. I wouldn't do them though, because like I like the pleasure of getting to eat real food. Like there's so many good flavors out there to have. Like a good piece of bread, some cooked green beans, carrots, mashed potatoes, steaks, ribs, fish. It's such an endless variety, and that just kills it all because you're just drinking a little drink that has one flavor.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to drink like liquid meals. Like me personally, I just don't like it. Like it may have what you need in it. Also, I'm not talking about the movie, by the way. It's like a legit company called Soylent that makes these like meals like in a bottle or whatever. But I just don't know. Like it's just not for me. And also, like usually when you try to pack too many nutrients and too many like different things into a like a liquid,
It tastes
it
like
starts getting
chalk.
really goopy and chalky. And I'm not sure if that's like that. I've never really tried it, but it looks like it could be possibly like not too great. I'm not really sure.
Man, like I'm just sitting here thinking, like, if you limit yourself, you don't like. I gotta tell you something, folks. I've been dying for this, man. You're going to know what I'm talking about. I'm dying for a nice cooked fish, a trout specifically, caramelized with the skin attached on the bottom. Like flayed out, cooked to perfection, glazed with a nice sweet sauce on a bed of mashed potatoes and some nice cooked green beans on the side. It sounds so good. Like, it's like, who in the world could say that that meal does not sound good? It sounds good. It tastes good. I would like to have one of those right now. Sadly, we can't. So I can only dream, and I'll have to settle for something else. But man, I'm telling you, I'm hungry. I'm starving here. I'm starving actually. And someone said, I don't trust feta. Adam, how can you not trust feta? Feta's good. Feta's good. Like it's got a little pungent flavor to it, and that pungence it's so good. Like it's great to put in stuff, especially not like eat alone, but put into things like feta wraps. Feta wraps are good. And eggs. If you put feta in eggs, like not a lot of it, a little bit of it, really good. It like complements the eggs pretty good. There's so much stuff you can put feta in. It's a very very versatile kind of a cheese, at least in my opinion. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Alchemist, who puts in a 20. And thank you very much, Alchemist, for that support. I do not see a comment attached to it, but we do appreciate it nonetheless. It does help keep the entire channel running. We also have a 10 from Ari Sawini, who's a longtime channel legend as well. And thank you very much, Ari, for that support. Kiwi Wife and Finn. And we do appreciate that very much. But huge shout out to the Alchemist and Ari. And Enforcer, what say you?
I gotta thank the Alchemist and Ari Sweeney, Kiwi Wife and Finn, both for the support. If it wasn't for folks like y'all, we wouldn't be able to keep this channel running. We wouldn't be able to make this thing possible. So huge thanks to you both so much once again. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to JC Atkins, who puts in a 10. He said, it's not much, but I work for a newspaper. So, and also, by the way, I don't ever want anybody to think that like any amount of support is like too little or something. We're appreciative for any support because you don't have to support. So we appreciate that very much, JC. He said, take a chat when the time comes on behalf of your favorite LSA Navy NCO and keep up the great work, gentlemen.
Hey, and also, I never knew that you worked for a newspaper, JC Atkins. I don't think you ever mentioned that before. But I do thank you so much for the support. And I also want to make this clear as well to everyone. Whether it is $1 or $500, we are massively appreciative for y'all's support. Because we know that if you're supporting the channel at all, you're enjoying it so much that you're supporting it usually as much as you can. And some people out there are made of money, and it's easy for them to throw in huge amounts of support, like a $500 super chat or 100. But other folks who enjoy the channel, they might not have a lot. They might have $1, $5, $10, 20, and they're supporting it as much as they can. It's really more so the thought that counts, because if you're supporting the channel because you enjoy it and you're supporting as much as you can, that $10 or $20 support, or in your particular instance, JC Atkins, your 10 means as much to us as a 500, because we are just massively appreciative to know that anyone would even go out of their way to support the channel at all, whether no matter the value, no matter the amount. And so I got to thank you incredibly for that, because if it wasn't for folks like you, JC Atkins, the support wouldn't be able to add up because 10 people who throw in a 10 is as much as one super chatter that throws in 100. So each and every bit makes its difference, and each and every bit helps us to be able to pay our bills and keep the lights on back here. And so I got to thank you massively for that, and I got to thank you so much for the kind words, and of course being our favorite LSA Navy in CO. So a huge thanks to you so much once again, and we will make sure to keep up the great work in your honor and folks like you, JC Atkins. So a huge thanks to you so much once again, and with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. Also, by the way, I see people in the live chat, including Rosalie, saying I only have yogurt left in the house. I'll tell you all this. I'm not ashamed to admit it. I got literally nothing in the fridge. Like, I've been lazy. I haven't gone to the store. I got nothing in the fridge except for, like, I think a half empty bottle of orange juice or something. And also the pantry. So the cupboards are bare. The cupboards are bare. Not because honestly, I have the time to go. I just need to actually, like, get my ass up and go to the store. Like, honestly, that's what I need to do. But we got to find time to do it. Honestly, it gets difficult because I start making a video, I start doing research for something, I start, doing my preparation for the stream, then I'm on the stream, then I get off, and then, I'm dealing with business in the back end and things like that. It's just like the store, I can't stand the store. And also, I don't want to, like, I don't want to do that delivery junk where they bring it to your door. I feel like a bum doing that. Like, I know people that do it. It's fine. Like, I know it's convenient. It probably works really well, but mentally, I'd rather just actually physically go to the store. But at the same time, I'm too lazy to go to the store. So I don't know. It's just tough.
And also, when we have free time, sometimes we just don't want to do it because it's like, it's finally some free time for a minute. Maybe not do that. But man, honestly, folks, Matthew said something to me last night that resonated with me. Like, you remember it, Matthew? I was like, man, I'm kind of hungry. Are you hungry? You're like, yeah. And I was like, well, are you going to go get something to eat? Nah, I'm probably just going to try and figure out how to scrounge up something here, although we have nothing, because honestly, I'm lazy as shit. Bro, when you said that, I was like, bro, that's so real, because I was like, I didn't want to get out and get anything either. I was like, we need to get groceries. Like, to be honest with y'all, we need to get groceries because we are both lazy when it comes to that. Like, especially me. I hate going in grocery stores. I hate it so much because, like, you wander around, people don't know what the hell they're doing, and they get in your way, or they don't know how to talk. Like, they look at you like you're, like, robbing them sometimes. Like, they literally walk in front of you and get in your way, and you're like, oh, excuse me. And when you say excuse me, it's like they heard, hey, yo, bitch, give me a wallet. And it's like, I didn't say that. I'm just trying to get through here. Like, I don't want to deal with this. And so, like, honestly, when Matthew said that last night, I was like, bro, that's so real. I was like, honestly, I agree. But I was so hungry, we got in the car and we went and got something. So, like, yeah, I absolutely hate with the bottom of my gut going into a grocery store. I think
I really don't mind it. Like, honestly, I don't mind going to the grocery store. It's just that, honestly, I go to Walmart. So the problem is it's such a huge store. It's like I go to Walmart because I'm also a cheapskate. I don't want to pay the little bit extra to go to, like, a Publix or something like that because they charge a little bit extra from what I can gather. So I go to Walmart, but then you got to walk the whole damn thing. Like, I don't know how many square feet of Walmart is, like 40,000 square feet or something, but you got to walk the whole thing. And I'm like, I just need the groceries. I don't need all the other junk in the toy section and the clothes section and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, come on. And then honestly, I will say this. I'm not trying to bash on Walmart because I go there and shop myself, but the Walmart shoppers sometimes are a little bit out there. Like, I'm not going to lie. Sometimes they're a little bit out there. Like, there might be in a different universe, like some of these people. Like, the way, like, they will look at you with that 1,000-yard stare. I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, how come I never see these people outside of Walmart anywhere?
Yet,
I see them inside the store. I never see them outside the store.
Dude, you know the other people, though, there's two types of people. They stare at you with a 1,000-yard stare, or they sit there and they look at the ground and they're like, do not talk to him, do not recognize him, do not act like he's there. And you can walk up to someone and be like, oh, excuse me, I just need to get something right there. Oh, and like, they're like freaked out. Like, they're like, oh my God. And then they like get out of the way like you're like a crazy homeless person that's about to stab him for like $5. It's like, look, it's like, I'm just here in the store. I just want to get my stuff and go. I'm not crazy. Okay. Like, just because you watched a TikTok where there was some crazy guy out in the street doesn't mean they're here. I'm just trying to get the can of shit that you're literally standing in front of. You've been standing there for 5 minutes. You haven't moved. You haven't even got anything. You haven't looked at the counters. Like, just move. I'm not trying to do anything to you. I'm not trying to mess with you. I just want the damn can. Like, give me the can. Like, I'll be honest with you, man. Like, I'll be honest, folks. I see a lot of people laughing about the whole Walmart thing. Walmart's tough. Like, Walmart, like, if y'all have ever watched SpongeBob, Like every other grocery store is bikini bottom. Walmart is rock bottom. You know, where the people on SpongeBob, Matthew, talks like, "Hey, what are you doing?" You know, like that. Like that's Walmart. Like, sorry to all the folks who work there. God bless you all, because y'all have to work with some crazy people who come in there to shop. But Walmart is nuts.
Now, I remember I went to Walmart one time, and I went there. I went there to go get something. I can't remember. It was one of the recent times, and somebody in there had mentioned something about the Walmart early morning walkers or something like that. And I was like, "What is that?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" They're like, these people that come into Walmart in the morning, they walk around the store or something. They just like start opening up snacks and eating it, and walk around the store like doing laps, like exercising in the store, and they start eating the food out of the boxes. I'm like, that's interesting. I said, well, you know, at least you're getting business. They're like, no, they're just eating out of the boxes and then they just leave. It's like, oh, they're not paying for it. It's like, okay, that's like they're coming here and stealing. Basically, they're just like having a meal off the snacks. They're getting the granola and they're heading out. It's like, okay, and I'm like, they do it every day. It's like, yeah. It's like, well, why aren't you stopping them? I don't think I ever got an answer to that, but it's like, interesting. I'm like, kind of fascinating. They're just walking around here chewing on snacks.
Yeah, it's insane. But you know, one time, folks, I actually saw a guy. I remember this guy to this day, man. I was in Walmart, okay, and this was back in our hometown before we moved here to Birmingham. And I don't know if you remember this guy, Matthew, but we turned around and we turned to an aisle, and there was this guy standing there. And he was the most disheveled guy. He was wearing like a red T-shirt, wearing some sort of like a weird olive drab trench coat, the shittiest gray sweatpants ever. I mean, they were covered in like stains and everything, like house slippers. And then he had on, I'm not even kidding, folks, a full Soviet Budanovka from like the Russian Civil War. This thing here. And I remember that guy to this day because it was the most whack fit I've ever seen on anyone ever. Literally wearing, like, it had a red star on it with a sickle and hammer and everything. A Budanovka just like that. And I will never forget that, because I do not know who in their right mind, who is actually mentally stable and sane, would wear the Budanovka into a Walmart.
I'm just saying, but in our line of work, if I ran across a guy wearing this hat right here, I'd probably walk the other direction.
I would. Like, yeah, I would. But anyways, with that, enough about Walmart. We got more questions, and I want to make sure that we get to as many of them as we can. So with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one here goes to none other than Trey Overton, who puts in a $20 donation. And thank you very much, Trey, for that $20 support. And he said, I'm just joining the recap of the night.
Hey, and welcome in, Trey. And also, I hope you enjoyed the recap. And I thank you massively for support and helping this channel to keep running, because it is folks like you who help to make this thing possible. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And we have a 10 from CIA Accounts Payable Black Ops Accounting. And thank you very much, the accounting department, for that support. We do appreciate that very much. And they said, thank you for the comprehensive coverage of the Thai-Cambodian conflict. Bangkok is on my travel itinerary next month, so I have to stay abreast, and your daily brief helps.
And I thank you for the support. I generally would have to honestly tell y'all, I don't really think there's going to be a lot of danger because of this war in Thailand, as long as you don't go to a border region. And also that's going to be blocked off to tourists because it's under martial law. I think staying in Bangkok or going anywhere into the south of the country, down here near the peninsula, or generally the isthmus, well, it's not an isthmus, whatever this land mass is, that should be generally safe and fine. Of course, follow the Department of State's advisories over mine. They're going to know more about this. But considering that Cambodia has really no air defense to work with, commercial aircraft, and they also have no air force, commercial aircraft cannot be threatened from the Cambodians in any significant means to close down Thailand's airspace. So everything should be fine to show up and be a tourist there. And they also don't have any long-range artillery or rocket forces that could fire into a city like Bangkok or even Pattaya City to actually cause any damage, at least from what we know publicly. So I would generally say it probably would be okay to go. It's just make sure to exercise some additional some additional caution is the best way to put it. And also listen to the Department of State advisories far more than mine, because they are the general experts on that matter, and they'll be able to tell you if there's going to be any consular assistance that could be provided by the United States if things did go south somehow, some way, even if they did say it was safe before you went. So with that, I hope that does address that the best I can. A big thanks to you once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one here goes to Steve, who puts in a 10. And also, I'm not really sure what he was saying here with this one. I'm not sure. I can't tell if it's a reference to the U.S. officials or what. Steve, we'll have to err on the side of caution with this one, so I'm not really sure. Enforcer, do you see this one and do you know what he's talking about?
I see this one, and I think we will have to skip it because it's kind of like a slightly political thing. So we'll have to skip it. But I do thank you for the support, though.
All right. So thank you very much, Steve, for that support as well. I'm sorry we can't address it. But our next one here goes to Johns, who puts in a 5. And also, by the way, let's see here. Hold on. Before I grab Johns real quick, I think Trey, let's see.
Oh, he was
okay, Trey
sorry.
Overton.
Just joining, recap the night. Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say that. We misunderstood that, actually. And I also saw Trey got offended. Sorry about that, Trey. We actually misunderstood what you were asking, I think. We weren't trying to, take a jab or, skip over it or something. So the Enforcer's going to address it.
I thought you said just joined for the recap of the night. I was like, oh, thanks. I'm so sorry, Trey. I did not mean it that way. So a recap of the night, because I saw a lot of people. He's asking about the title. So sorry, everyone. We completely misread that. But so a recap of the night. The border war in Thailand has turned into a major ground conflict. Right now, we're seeing that both sides are lobbing pretty heavy artillery at each other, and we're also seeing that the Thai are moving their royal army through pretty much the whole country to get into the northeast, where most of the fighting is going right now. Their air force is also relocating into the northeast. There were some rounds that landed in this region of Laos down here, but nobody knows who shot them, whether it was the Cambodians or the Thai. It's unclear at the moment. There have been technically about 100 Cambodian service members killed, and in return, we know that about 14 Thai civilians have died at this point. That's our rough approximate number. Then in the Middle East, the Syrian interim government, believe it or not, is attacking the Druze. Crazy, I know, right? Like, we didn't see that one coming. And then the Houthis fired another ballistic missile at Israel. Israel claims that Iran is making a fusion bomb. The Ukrainians did attack the Kerch Bridge, but we don't know what kind of damage was caused. The Ukrainians also launched an attack into the Stavropol region. Russia is also retiring the Admirals Kuznetsov officially. They also canceled Navy Day. Russian truck sales are down by 60%, and Kamaz is cutting more work days to be able to try and keep afloat. And the Ukrainians repelled the first Russian attack on the Pokrovsk, but the Russians have finally made it to the gates of the city of Pokrovsk. So that is generally all of our major breaking news for the day. And I am so sorry once again, Trey, because I saw you say, dang, I came in here for a recap. He just said thanks and move on. And I'm so sorry. I mean, like, quite legitimately, Trey. I actually thought that you were saying something else entirely, because I didn't know that you meant just joining, recap the night. I thought you just said just joining recap the night in, like, a different meaning. Like, for example, just joining, like, getting finally caught up to speed. Because a lot of people click on the show and they start at the beginning and they do it at ×2 speed until they catch up. That's what I thought you meant. I thought you meant you had finally caught up to where we were live on the air after you did like a 2x speed recap. And I was like, oh, well, thanks for joining. And I did not know that you wanted a quick little recap of everything that happened. So I hope that does address that well. So sorry about the misunderstanding, by the way. Didn't mean to get you upset or riled up or anything, thinking that we were just blowing you off, because we were definitely not trying to. But a big thanks to you so much once again. I hope that does address that the best we can. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and also, by the way, let's jump back to another one as well, to Steve's $10 super chat. So he clarified what he meant with it. So Steve said Kadyrov almost got Australian prime ministered.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the Australian Prime Minister. I thought you were talking about the one that shit himself. You're talking about the one that went missing when he went for a swim and they never found him. Yeah, he almost did. He almost did, actually. He had, because Matthew, did you hear about that story? Australian Prime Minister went for a swim, and some folks just watched him just get sucked out by a riptide, and he just disappeared. No one ever found him. He drowned out there and died. So then they just got a new prime minister. So yeah, that almost happened to Kadyrov, actually. Yeah, that's actually true, Steve. So I thank you for the support. I hope that does address that well. And now that we know what you're saying, yeah, I would agree. And so a big thanks to you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one goes to Johns, who puts in a 5. He said, I sent a video to the our X page, and Cambodia has set up missile systems amongst housing to limit retaliatory strikes from Thailand.
I thank you for the support, Johns. We actually showed a video similar to that tonight, and that is pretty abhorrent of the Cambodians to pretty much put civilians in harm's way of counter battery fire. And so a big thanks to you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to GBD Guy, who puts in a 5. And they said China has operational control or major influence over 50 plus deep water ports, providing naval mobility, military positioning, and economic leverage. And we have 2.
I would have to say we have to have more than 2. Because, you know, just counting Charleston and Los Angeles, we already have 2. So if you count Seattle, that's 3. If you count San Jose, that's 4. Let's see, and then if you count, let's see, Newark, that would be 5. If you count, I think Boston is still, yeah. If you count Boston, that's 6. So there are a decent amount of deep water ports that we have direct control over of just in the United States alone. But outside of the United States, unfortunately, I wouldn't have the number. But China being in control of 50, I don't know. Like, I'll have to look into that and do some research. But I do thank you for support, Johnson, helping this channel to keep on running. Because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this thing passable and keep it running. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one goes to Not For One Yet For All Ukraine, who puts in a 5. And they said, Slava Ukraine, Hear Slava. And I know y'all don't watch TV shows, yet the new South Park episode is on point. Long live the LSA.
What episode are you talking about?
I personally don't watch South Park. I've never really watched South Park. It's a little too crass for me. But I happened to see, by happenstance, a recent episode of South Park, which was very interesting, to say the least. It's really crazy how they're able to animate the devil like that in that show. It's really crazy. But Enforcer, what say you?
Hey, relax, guy. Oh man, we're gonna get sued. But beyond that, I do thank you so much for the support and helping this channel keep running. And I'd have to say, I personally don't watch South Park a lot either, but the new episode was interesting to say the least. It's a good thing though that that episode was released after the whole merger was approved, though, because that could have impacted the success of the merger. So a little bit strategic how it came out right after the merger was completed.
No, it actually came out before it was agreed to.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think it came out slightly before, and then literally right after it came out, I think it was approved.
Oh, so there wasn't enough reaction time still, though.
Probably not.
Yeah, probably not. So with that, I hope that does address that well. But I've never really personally watched South Park a lot. We really didn't get to watch much of anything growing up, for better or for worse. Because of reasons. It's better just not to get into all the details of that. But beyond that, I do thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Trey Overton yet again, and he throws in another $20 donation. And thank you, Trey, for the second support of the night. He said, voice lost in chat. It happens. And I didn't want to seem rude, and thank you for all you do. And don't worry about it. I think we misread it, and I think maybe you misread what we were saying as well. So I think it was a misunderstanding, but thank you very much for the support. And Enforcer, what say you?
Whatever. I'm just playing with you, Trey. I'm so sorry, because we did misread it. I'll put the blame solely on me and Matthew, because we both misread it, I believe, and so I thought it was something else entirely different. But rereading it again, I was like, oh, he was asking for a recap from me right now. I was like, okay, we completely botched it. But I do thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running, because the responsibility is squarely on our shoulders. But I do thank you massively for the additional support that you threw in tonight and helping this channel to keep on running. And you're not rude at all, because I think that was a misunderstanding, like Matthew was saying, on all of our ends, and especially ours, because we misread it. So big thanks to you so much once again. I hope that does address that the best I can. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Kachulian343, who puts in a 5. And thank you very much, Kachulian, as well. They said, I have no idea what the F Cambodia was thinking. They'll be lucky if they don't have their entire government abolished. That was a dumb fight to pick. It honestly was super stupid. That was a stupid fight. A very stupid fight. I still to this day, I keep repeating this like a broken record, I still to this day don't understand what the hell Cambodia's plan is. And also, not only is Cambodia going deep, they're also attacking civilians. They're putting their own civilians at risk. I mean, Cambodia is operating almost like a terrorist force at this point. They're operating that bad. Like, you wonder, why are they endangering their civilians so freely like they're doing? Why are they attacking civilians so freely? And also, why are they fighting with no clear plan in mind? It's like, who the hell's in charge of their military?
Pol Pot, maybe?
Maybe they're a new reincarnated version, I guess, or something. They're acting like a lunatic.
Dude, Pol Pot said, haha, What a nice day. Get my bloodbath ready. Like, legitimately. Like, it's like, bruh, that's a messed up person. But beyond that, I do thank you so much for the support, Controlling. I have to agree. The Cambodian state is going to be lucky if they survive with a head on their shoulders at all. Figure of speech, of course. But with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one also goes to Kachulin343, what's in a 5. He said, by the way, can you explain how one temple caused this much hate? I get land disputes, but this is nuts how fast and far it escalated this bad.
I'll be honest with you. I unfortunately really can't, because I do not understand, because from what I understand, this is a Buddhist temple. I do not understand how a Buddhist temple, specifically because Buddhism, at least from what I generally understand, is a pacifist religion, is able to create a underlying hatred and need for war between two countries, because it seems to me that a religion that, at least from what I generally understand in my limited understanding of Buddhism, is a pacifist religion, would create strife. That is something I actually would not know the answer to, at least at the moment. I'll have to do a lot more research because this is an area of a topical area that I study on much about the Buddhist belief systems and also the belief systems of this region, the demographics, the statistics, the populations, the two countries involved, their foreign policies, stances, and positions beyond their positions with the United States. I don't really know a great deal on it. I'm still trying to learn more about it. So I would also be a little bit mystified with this as well, as to how a Buddhist temple in particular can create this much animosity. I have no clue. But it is quite mysterious, that I will agree. But a big thanks to you once again. I hope that does address that the best I can. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Jeremiah Freeman, who puts in a 5. And Jeremiah says, so my wife is from Thailand, and she was saying this has to do with Angkor Wat and the land around it. And apparently the Thais believe that is rightfully theirs. ChatGPT it if you don't believe me.
Angkor Wat or the temple along the border? Because I've been hearing that
Angkor Wat.
It is Angkor Wat?
Yeah, it's Angkorwat.
Yeah, it's this one.
So this is where all the that's not the one. That one, I'm not sure if that one was the one that necessarily started all the. Yeah, I'm not sure if that's the one that started all the fighting right there. I think it was a different one actually.
Why does Cambodia hate Thailand? Let's just ask that question.
I'm going to chat GPT it.
Why is the Reddit answer so racist sounding? Like that doesn't even sound like that is like the most racist description that could. Anyways, let's see.
What did you ask Google? Why does Cambodia hate Thailand? Let's see here. Oh wow, there's a lot of history. This is deep. This is as deep as the Pakistan-India situation. It's that type of deep. Let's see. So here's the main headlines for why there's some problems here. Historical rivalry and the Khmer Empire legacy. Cambodians see Thailand as culturally usurper. Cambodians feel that Thailand appropriated Khmer heritage. Thailand in turn sees itself as having surpassed Cambodia. So there's some tensions very clearly. The territorial disputes are specifically around the Preah Vihar Temple. So that was the Preah Vihar Temple is the one I was thinking about, and that's in a different area. That's been the most intense flashpoint. So apparently in 1962, the International Court of Justice awarded the temple to Cambodia, but Thailand disputes the surrounding land. And there've been armed clashes multiple times between 2008 and 2011, causing deaths, but nothing to this magnitude. What we're seeing today is literally the start of a full-scale war. This is much different. Also, there's a lot of nationalism and propaganda. Both governments are heavily nationalist in rhetoric. In Cambodia, the anti-Thai sentiment is sometimes fueled by education, media, and popular culture. So they're in fact indoctrinating each population basically to hate the other one, from the sounds of it. There's also anti-Thai riots inside of Cambodia. So it looks like a lot of racism, a lot of cultural differences, and honestly, it sounds like the issue roots from racism and cultural differences. And the temple is merely the incarnation of it in a physical sense, but it sounds like they've got some cultural differences which are causing the fight.
Oh my God. I know what this is like. Bruh. It's the Balkans.
Honestly, man, it sounds like every conflict in like the entire world at this point, it always starts from like cultural, religious, or racial differences. It's like how old is that same theme when it comes to war? It's like that's the oldest one in the book.
Dude, all I know is that if you do not know, Matty, do you know how like Yugoslavia collapsed?
Not particularly.
So this is basically why. Like after Tito died, some guy, I'm gonna have to just say it flat up because it's actually as stupid as the start to the war between Thailand and Cambodia as far as like why it started. Because this started because the Cambodians crossed the border and planted a mine on the Thai side. So in Yugoslavia, some guy shoved a bottle up his bum and it broke, and so he went to a hospital. And they were like, "Oh my God, this is gruesome! Like, what happened?" And he was so embarrassed to say that he shoved a bottle up his ass. He said that I forgot who it was. I think he said like the Kosovans did it or something, and that's literally what led to the whole of Yugoslavia collapsing and turning into all of the countries it is today. Is because everyone hated each other so much. So this guy saying that was the justification for everyone to go off. And
Why'd he do
off
it?
they did go, huh?
Oh, well, why'd he do it?
I don't know. But that's technically kind of how it started. Was someone had a bottle up their ass, it broke, and then and then they said who did it, and he didn't say that he did it, and then he said someone else did it to him, and
That's a weird way to start a war.
yeah, that's a weird way, but that's generally what's understood to have happened nowadays, because everyone was like, this story isn't really making that much sense, like back when it happened, and that seems to kind of be the case. But everyone hated each other so much in the former Yugoslavia that they were like, well, if he says they did it to him, they did it to him. That's all we need. So let's go get him. And so that's why everyone started conducting all of the sorts of atrocities that they were doing, like in Bosnia and Herzegovina and Serbia and Kosovo and everywhere else. So yeah, kind of a similar thing. Like it's just everyone already hates each other, and any sort of a justifiable reason to go at it is a good reason. Kind of like that one. Similar thing.
Interesting. Yeah, honestly, I can understand wars that come down between, like, for example, if you have like a rogue country, like, for example, Iran that's aggressing on Israel, and Israel simply wants to mind their own business and be left alone by Iran. Like, obviously, Israel has to fight Iran for that reason. But when it comes down to something stupid like two countries just hate each other for the hell of it, and then they start picking goofy crap to fight over, like the temple or something like that, it's like, come on now. It's like, let the temple go. And it's like, it sounds like the temple had already been decided. It was given to Cambodia. Thailand started disputing the land around the temple, and now it's turned into a mess that's been brewing for decades. So basically what happened was they hated each other. They found a way to spark and basically have a catalyst to create a real war, and now they're in a real war. And that's why, that might explain why Cambodia is acting so reckless at this point, because they're being fueled by emotions.
Yeah, but also at the same time, though, the Cambodians did the little sneaky and snuck across the border and planted a landmine to blow up someone. It's like, so, like, while Thailand was still challenging it through the courts, the Cambodians say, "Hey, yo, watch this," and then pulled a little prank, if you want to call it that, on the Thai army. So it's like, I don't know. It just seems like the sort of back and forth deal. Technically, beyond the back and forth, we still support Thailand because it's a strategic thing. But still a little bit interesting nonetheless.
Yeah, I just don't know why they can't get along. Like, that's the age-old thing. Can they just be friends? Can't they be friends? Like,
Why
can
can't
they not?
we be friends? Why
And they said,
can't
hell
we?
no, we're not friends. Fire them arrests.
Dude,
It's like, damn, okay.
Dude, they said, "Oh hell no!" I like that meme, bro. They went, "Hell no!" But
They said,
anyways,
oh yes, we can be friends. Say hello to my little friend, this rocket. It's like, you have some.
bro, they said, "You know what? We can be friends. You want to dine in hell?" Like it just went off. It's like, bro, they were ready for it. But anyways, with that,
Man, I heard they built a new golf course on the border. They said 4, and they went bink, and sent it right over.
Bruh, dude, I heard, man, that they're playing a new game. They call it explosive frisbee. They take landmines and they fling them at each other like frisbees. But anyways, with that, it is time for us to get on to the next ones.
All right, and our next one here goes to JC Atkins yet again, who puts in a 10. And JC said, I just want to say, it is pleasant to come out of a daily flow of propaganda to get some no shit news from you two each night. And I appreciate it more than you know.
Oh man, that's a perfect pun right after I talked about the guy in the former Yugoslavia with the bot. Oh man. But beyond that, I do thank you for support. I thank you for the kind words, because folks like you help to make this channel possible and help us to keep it running. So a big thanks for the kind words and the support. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to the B93, who puts in a 5. And he said, do you think the state of modern-day Cambodia is a long effect of the Khmer Rouge regime killing off the educated? Their ignorance cost their future.
Yeah, like to an extent, like they killed everyone who was smart in Cambodia. Y'all may not know that, but they killed everyone who was smart. And it was to the degree that Pol Pot said, anyone who you see that's wearing glasses, kill them. Like, and they would just execute you on the spot if you were wearing glasses, because technically you were smart if you were wearing glasses. So the dude literally looked at a nerd emoji and went, that's a smart guy. We need to kill all these people. Like, how stupid could you be? But beyond that, I would have to say possibly so, maybe. But I do thank you for support and helping this channel to keep it running. I hope that does address it the best I can. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Kenny. Excuse me. And Kenny puts in a 5. He said, what is the odds of the Vietnamese getting involved in the Southeast Asia conflict? Thank you for answering, and love Ukraine, and Godspeed.
And I thank you for the support, and I have a feeling that the odds are low, because Vietnam is more so focused on that textile industry right now and trying to keep things stable, more so than getting involved in a conflict. So I think they're probably going to stay out of it. But I do thank you for the support and helping this channel to keep running. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Nathan Snyder, who puts in a 5. He said, I randomly came across the stream on the night of the Midnight Hammer, and I'm glad I did, and I try to make it every night, and thank you.
And thank you. Thank you for enjoying this channel and supporting it and helping it to keep running. Because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this thing possible and keep it running. And I got to thank you for being here for about a month at this point, actually, because that was about a month ago. And so, massive thanks to you once again. And we are on to the next one.
And we have a 5 from Halligan218, who said, what is your opinion on the potential Union Pacific Norfolk Southern merger? Great show as usual.
Oh, don't get me started. That's a monopoly. The ICC should shoot that down. A transcontinental...
Allegedly. Allegedly.
Well, allegedly about what part?
You have to say allegedly.
Why?
Because for legal reasons, you have to say allegedly.
On what part, though?
Calling something a monopoly.
I don't think I have to. That's my personal opinion.
I would say allegedly.
Okay, all right. That's a lot, but
I mean, it's just common sense.
well, I mean, you know, if you say something though, like you think something,
It's called protecting your ass. Basically, it's just called, you know, playing it safe. But you do what you want.
Okay. Well, I'd still say that that's pretty much creating a monopoly, because with how that would go, that let me show you. Let's see. Norfolk Southern trackage. Let me go get their trackage map. So this is all of the routes, or more so the mains, that Norfolk Southern has. And then the Union Pacific trackage map is this. So, if you take Norfolk Southern, and then you take the Union Pacific, you have one railroad company that can reach literally anywhere in the United States. And while that has some benefits to it, at that point, you are forcing BNSF, which is owned by Berkshire Hathaway, and CSX to merge. Otherwise, they're going to die, like its companies, because this company will be able to transport your cargo from all the way from San Jose, all the way, if you wanted to Newark Harbor in Newark, New Jersey. And that is going to be something that would, honestly, in my opinion, be detrimental to the U.S. logistical infrastructure and also to U.S. business. I don't really think this is a smart idea, and the ICC should shoot this down. And I think they're kind of gearing up to do that, but they should, because this is it's not a good idea. You know, like it's in my personal opinion, not that great of an idea. So I would generally say that they should not let that through. So with that, I hope that does address that well, because I personally think that this is a terrible idea. Allegedly, and of course we have to make it incredibly clear that it is allegedly. You know, it's a It's a alleged thing. But I mean, look at that. If we combine these two together, if you combine those two together, think, people. That's the whole nation for the large part, except for CSX, which has everything up here. But think, people, think. It's a bad idea. Like in my personal opinion, it's a bad idea. This should be shot down. Because this is like saying let's let all of the trucking companies in this country merge into two major mega trucking companies. And there are a lot of trucking companies out there right now. And even like the big ones, like let's see, I think it's JB Hunt. They aren't this large. Like they aren't this ever scoping or capable as a merger between Norfolk Southern and the Union Pacific. So that would be my 2 cents on it. But with that, hope that does address that the best I can, at least in my opinion. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one here goes to none other than Daryl Barkhouse once again, and he puts in a 5. And Daryl said, at some point soon, I see Iran attacking Israel or vice versa, and what will it take for the U.S. to jump into the foray?
That's a good question. Probably would take us having the Israelis jumping again to jump in, honestly. I think we'll be jumping in when they jump in. So I hope that does address that the best I can. I thank you for support and helping this channel to keep on running. I hope that does address that quite well, at least the best I can. And with that, it's time for us to move on to the next one. I see a lot of people talking about the whole monopoly thing in the chat, or the whole merging of the railroads. I've got plenty of stuff that I could talk about with that on the business side of things, not talking about it from a railroading enjoyer side of things, from a business side of things, that I personally would say it makes this a bad idea. Because it's not good. It's not good because if y'all have looked at how the mergers have worked in the past that created the Norfolk Southern, the Union Pacific, the BNSF, and CSX, one thing has become clear statistically is that shipping costs have massively increased on all of those railroads as they've merged. And generally, it's already been kind of understood that because of the deregulation of the Staggers Act in 1980 that allowed for all these railroads to merge the way they have to create pretty much the 4 major American railroads, which are these 4, that it's pretty much already created near monopolistic economic conditions for railroad transport. Letting them monopolize to the point that there are literally only 2 mega companies left is allegedly a bad idea, because it's going to jack up the rates even higher. That's what it's also going to start cutting out service. They're going to streamline, because that's what they did when they merged the last times to create the CSX and the Norfolk Southern. They started to streamline everything. They started ripping up lines. They started denying service to specific industries and companies. Those industries and companies would die off sometimes because they didn't have access to cheap transportation anymore, because they'd also jack up the rates if they were even around. It's not a good thing. Like this is a surefire way, in my honest opinion, that we're going to start wrecking the U.S. economy even further if that merger went through, in my honest opinion. Allegedly. Some people may not see that, but I think honestly, folks, that if they merge together, this is going to be more disastrous than the Penn Central merger, which was a disastrous one by fact. It wasn't even an opinion. It was the largest bankruptcy in U.S. history up to that point in time when it collapsed. And this is going to do something similar, or have as devastating a conflict, a devastating outcome in a different way as the Penn Central bankruptcy did back in '77. So I hope that does address it the best I can. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one here goes to none other than Andrew Honeycutt, who puts in a 5. And thank you very much, Andrew, for that support. He said, I'd like to hear your thoughts on why several countries are starting wars. Is it a result of instability in governments that traditionally police? Yes, it is. It is, Andrew Honeycutt. Here's the thing, and I'm going to have to skirt around this one carefully because it gets slightly political if I go too deep. But basically, we do have world police. The United States has been the world police for a long time, very long time. And people have stated that's a terrible thing. Some people say that. In my opinion, I believe there are positives and negatives to it, but I believe the positives outweigh the negatives because ultimately, there has to be one leader in the world. And the U.S. has usually stepped up to the plate, which means we have to foot a lot more of the bill. If we want to be the boss, you got to pay the cost to be the boss. And we've been paying the cost. But we've also been really benefiting heavily from that because we get to have a very good say in Europe. We get to have a very good say in pretty much every region of the world. And we're one of the only countries in the world that literally has regions sectioned off militarily that we control literally globally, which is crazy. So I would say that having some stability would typically mean that wars aren't going to break out around the world quite like they're doing right now. I would agree. But Enforcer, what say you?
I'd have to agree, and I'd also have to say that there's a lot more involved than just saying stuff, because I remember a time. It's hard to not get political on this because it would just be nice, to be honest with you all, if I could take a direct statement that someone said and then it turns out to be untrue, that if so-and-so's in charge, then there's going to be no more wars and all the wars that are happening are just going to magically stop. And then that's clearly not true. Because because the world senses that there's blood in the water and the whole thing's unstable and it's on a house of cards, and and I would have to agree with Matthew. It is generally the fact that the major superpower, which is the United States, isn't going around and pretty much being the long arm of justice in this world that's leading to a lot of this sort of instability that we're seeing right now. The last administration, in my opinion, got the ball rolling on that pretty well, and it's not really stopping, and no one's stopping it now. So, it can be stopped. It can be stopped. I want to make that clear. Can be stopped, but it takes effective leadership and someone who's actually pretty wise and sharp in the foreign policy sphere to be able to do that. So I hope that does address that the best I can. I think it wants to give us support and help this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one right here goes to Foot in Ass Entertainment. Who puts in a 5? That's a condition there, which is epidemic in Russia at this point. They should see a doctor. But they said, I think meat is one of the causes of, well, I can't say that. I can't say it. Believe it or not, that could actually be something right there which could get us in trouble with YouTube. So I'm going to have to not say that one because I think they would classify that as some type of misinformation. They're really weird about that kind of topic right there. But Enforcer, what say you?
I think it was support. But the truth is that can come from anything. Like, it could come from literally anything. So I do think it was support and help this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And we have a 5 from Tom R, who said, when was the last time the Marmot graced our screens?
Quite a while ago, actually. You know what? We need to bring it on. We need to bring it on because we can't go without not mentioning it for too long. It's got to be mentioned. Oh, hello there. Hey!
Hello there, Governor. How you been? It's been a long time coming. It's been a long time. Been working hard in the mines. That's why he's spitting up blood. He's got to work hard. He's down there chipping away in the uranium mines. I tell you what, it's a hard day for a Marmot to be at work. It's a hard day. I tell you what. How's the fly doing down there? Take a look.
Oh, man. I'm on my last legs. Oh, man.
Man, I'll tell you what, he really is, though. That's kind of facts.
Bruh. Oh, boo-hoo, I'm gonna play him a violin on the world's shiniest fiddle. But man, dude, honestly, it's great to have the Marmot back on screen. We love the Marmot. We love the Marmot. We love Alan the Marmot. Alan the Marmot is a legend. So a big thanks to you once again for support. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next super chat goes to Trey Overton once again, who puts in a 5. And he said, do you think there will be a war with the Asian countries?
I think eventually there will be a war with China. I think that's almost an inevitable truth, at least in my opinion. So I would say yes. As far as the U.S. is concerned, there is going to be an inevitable war that we will get involved in again in Asia. And so a big thanks to you for support. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Plazoth, who puts in a 4. And thank you very much, Plazoth, for that support as always, and very consistent support. We do appreciate that. We also have a 2 from Mr. Hunky Dory, who left that $2 support. And big shout out to you both. And Enforcer, what say you?
And I got to thank both of y'all, because while you didn't throw in comments, your support is incredible and helps us to keep this thing rolling. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And we have a 2 from LSA Sergeant Figment, who said, LSA, hit the like button. That's an order.
And thank you so much for the support. And we will hit that like button. That is an order. And I got to thank you incredibly once again for enjoying this channel, because 4,400 people have hit that like button, and it may have been thanks to you. And so a big thanks to you once again. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Tony Not One, who puts in a 2. He said, I can't super chat from my Tony2A account. Is it blocked? And no, I don't recall blocking that account right there. So it could be a glitch. It could be something like that, but I'm not really sure, sadly. Sometimes there are glitches, though. But Enforcer, what say you?
And it could be a glitch, because I don't think that account's been banned. So a big thanks to you for the support. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Crisis King, who puts in a 2. He said, our family prays for you every night, and God bless.
And thank you so much. That's very kind of you, and we appreciate that. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Russ Rizzo, who puts in a 2. And he says, what'd you eat? Boudog, Mongolian marmot.
We got to pull this up.
I pull up.
I pull up? Hell no, I would not eat that. Ew, that looks gross.
It's is there a better picture?
I think that's the best one we got. Is the other one just shows them throwing it in and boiling the thing. So
yeah, I'll tell you what, the only thing it's good for is boiling.
Let's see here. Oh, hell no. Hell no. I would not eat that. Look at that. That's gross.
Oh my God. Get that off the screen, man.
Yeah, I'm going to have to say no. I would not eat a Boudog. That just looks unappealing, Russ. But I do thank you for your support. Hopefully this addressed that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
I wouldn't touch that. But this one goes to Cody Fritz, who puts in the 2. He said, have you all tried Havarti cheese? Danish, try it. Honestly, Cody, that was terrible timing with that right there after that nasty thing that we just looked at. Oh, my God.
Well, I have had Havarti cheese. It is pretty good, but I'm honestly, I'm losing my appetite after seeing that damn boudin thing. That was nasty. But still, I thank you for support. Help this channel to keep running. And yes, Havarti is pretty good. And so with that, it is time for us to get on into the live chats. We're going to be getting the Morse code decoders of the stream and then 3 live chats due to time constraints. And then we're going to be rounding this thing out. And so with that, what do we got, Matthew?
And our Morse code decoders tonight were Paul Schultz, Kevin J, Mason Miami, Joni Dog, Norm Pritchett, Arabo Garbo, and her royal fluffiness. They said the Morse says they about to pull out the TIE fighters the way they beaten Cambodia's ass. LLT LSA.
And ding, 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 ding. Shh. That's the sound of money. Y'all got that down on the nail. That was the jackpot. That was the Morse code message of the night. I got to congratulate y'all greatly, incredibly, for getting that correct again in the Lee Springer on Signal Corp, because y'all have gotten that correct time and time again for years. Years, I tell you. And it's always amazing. And so with that, it is time for us to move on into the third to last question of the night.
And this one goes to AF Kaplan, who said, has the U.S. State Department called on U.S. citizens to leave either Thailand or Cambodia due to the ongoing war there?
I haven't heard of it yet, but I would have to say no, at least from what we would know at the moment. Might be mistaken on that, though. And so with that, well, actually, Department of State Travel Advisory Map. No, actually, they're still level 2s, so let's see. What did they say? Due to the outbreak of war, do they say that in their travel advisory? Due to some risk of unrest. Oh, like they did include that it's in an armed conflict on the border at the moment. So it's a level 2. So the Department of State is actually saying it's safe to travel to both of them as long as you don't go to the front lines, which should be common sense. So I hope that does address that well. Thank you for asking a great question, because the answer is they are not telling anyone to leave yet. And so with that, I hope that does address it the best we can. The best we can, at least in my opinion, AF Kaplan. And also, a big thanks to Russ Rizzo, who threw in a 2 and said, you guys are great, and I will say. And thank you so much for the kind words, because you are great, Russ Rizzo, and long live the Lee Spring Army. And with that, we are on to the second to last question of the night.
And this one goes to Jeff Alley, who said, are all of these wars popping off coincidence, or could trade instability and other factors be the real culprits?
There could be a lot of culprits involved, but from what we can generally tell from the casus belli, or the casus belli that are being laid out for all these conflicts, they seem to be stemming from age-old issues, but they're all popping up around the same time, and they're not being settled, or generally not starting, due to the instability that's perceived in the world at the moment. So I hope that does address that the best I can, at least in my honest opinion. And with that, it's time for us to move on into the final question of the night. So who was the lucky last person to throw in the lucky last question of that night?
And that one goes to Dalton, who said, did Russia put nukes in North Korea, and why did they do that if true? And thank you all again, and LSA.
Russia didn't put nukes in North Korea. North Korea already has their own nukes in North Korea. I haven't heard of that, and I wouldn't know why the Russians would even want to do that, because North Korea is already a nuclear-armed state, so putting Russian nuclear weapons in North Korea would provide quite literally no strategic or tactical advantage in any situation diplomatically in that area at all. So I would have to say I have not heard about that happening, and I don't think that happened. So with that, I hope that does address that the best I can, and we have reached the end of tonight's stream. I've got to thank you all greatly for being here tonight. We absolutely enjoyed it. I thank you all once again, amazingly so, because we've actually gained nearly 1,000 subscribers today. That's unbelievable. That's unbelievable. We've gotten up to 477,300 subscribers. It's unreal. And if y'all have enjoyed tonight, please make sure to subscribe and hit that like button on the stream, and maybe comment in the live chat or something. I don't know. It's a free country. I don't give a shit. I'm just kidding. We do give a shit. I'm just kidding, by the way. But beyond that, I do thank you all so much once again for watching. I hope you all did enjoy tonight. This has been an absolute honor and a pleasure to be able to cover all of this major news for all of y'all once again. We will be seeing you all tomorrow at 10 p.m. Eastern Time to cover the next 24 hours of news from around the world. And if there is enough news in the midday tomorrow, which I'm guaranteed that there will be, Matthew will be making the short war video for all of y'all. And so with that...
yeah.
Oh, yeah, baby. And so with that, we will see you all tomorrow. Good night, good luck, take care, stay safe, and long live the Lee Spring Army, long live the Republic, and Slava Ukraine, Ram Slava.
And good night to you, folks, and thank you all for watching once again. And we will all see you tomorrow midday on the Short War video, and also at 10 p.m. Eastern tomorrow night as well for the live stream. And thank you all for watching once again. And of course, Slava Ukraine, Herom Slava, get some rest, and good night.